Chapter 4884. Furthermore, after Lin Ling carefully comprehended, he was able to sense countless humans on the continent. There were even gods. The mountain and river map. Someone suddenly yelled in horror from the shore. Is that the mountain and river map? That the top-grade chaos holy tool? More and more gods were yelling in disbelief. A top-grade chaos holy tool. Lin Ling's eyes were also flashing. He could sense that an unparalleled power of divinity was erupting from the painting. It could be said that there was no end to the power of divinity. Emperor Ziwei lived up to his name as a mighty god of the universe. His power of divinity was far too powerful, and he even possessed an entire universe. However, this was to be expected. Even Xianxia had his own universe, let alone Emperor Ziwei's. Of course, Lin Ling felt that Emperor Ziwei's universe didn't feel like a real universe. Although this universe was filled with spiritual energy and laws, it seemed to have a huge flaw. It couldn't regenerate. Lin Ling knew the flaw of this painting. For example, Lin Ling's universe could grow infinitely, but this painting's universe was fixed and couldn't expand at all. Moreover, although the spiritual energy here was rich, it couldn't be regenerated. However, Lin Ling's universe didn't have this flaw. Emperor Ziwei's universe was indeed more powerful than Xianxia's universe, but it wasn't a complete universe. You're embarrassing yourself by bringing out a trash universe. With that in mind, Lin Ling said in disdain. Don't spout nonsense if you don't understand, Lin Ling. My mountain and river map isn't something that you can understand. Emperor Ziwei harumphed coldly. He thought that this was the first time Lin Ling had seen such a powerful technique, so he didn't know how powerful it was. Is that so? Your universe should be from this painting, not a universe that you created and nurtured. All you're doing is throwing treasures into the painting. That's all. Lin Ling chuckled coldly. Emperor Ziwei's pupils contracted upon hearing this. He didn't think that Lin Ling would be able to see through his mountain and river map. Emperor Ziwei was naturally aware of the flaws in the mountain and river map. I'll show you the power of this stately painting. Emperor Ziwei roared as he abruptly pointed a finger at the painting in the sky. The painting expanded in size, and the 18 continents became even clearer. Upon closer inspection, the 18 continents were formed from 18 crepe myrtle stars. Emperor Ziwei had fused his Ziwei star into the mountain and river map. With the addition of this power, the picture scroll actually danced and then disappeared into the sky. Upon closer inspection, the sky seemed to have transformed into another universe. Everything was vivid and lifelike. The gods flew into the sky as if they could reach another universe. Divine artifact. The stately painting has become a chaos divine artifact. On the seashore, countless gods cried out in shock. Chaos divine weapons were incomparably powerful, and their owners were all top-notch gods of multiple eras. Lin Ling, let's see how you break this. Emperor Ziwei chuckled coldly as he made a series of complex divine seals with his hands, which he pointed toward the mountain river painting in the sky. A powerful suction force appeared and sucked Lin Ling into the mountain and river map. This meant that Lin Ling was about to enter Emperor Ziwei's universe. Lin Ling's expression shifted drastically as he was well aware of just how dangerous it was to be in someone else's universe. For example, Lin Ling's Lin Ling universe. Any god that entered it would be attacked by the Lin Ling universe, and their power would be greatly reduced. Now that he was being sucked into the mountain and river map, this meant that Lin Ling was about to be controlled by Emperor Ziwei. Damn it! Lin Ling clearly didn't expect Emperor Ziwei's mountain and river map to be so powerful, and he was unable to react in time and was sucked into the mountain and river map. After entering, Lin Ling immediately sensed that his power had weakened. However, this effect was weaker than Lin Ling had anticipated. He discovered that his power of divinity was still there, and his divine stares and divine abilities were still there. This meant that the mountain and river map wasn't as powerful as Lin Ling universe. The mountain and river map's power was that it could be brought into the Tao Pagoda and still be used. However, Lin Ling Universe couldn't. Watch me break your mountain and river map. Lin Ling roared and unleashed all his power. 2 billion power points fused into the tyrannical song sword, and the eternal killing world descended. Kill. At the same time, the gods in the mountain and river map charged toward Lin Ling. To Lin Ling's surprise, these gods were all like giant gods of the universe. Of course, they were slightly weaker than the real giant gods of the universe. This also made Lin Ling realize that the mountain and river map couldn't change the person who entered, but it could increase the power of the gods in this universe. Of course, there was also a flaw, and that was that the gods in the mountain and river map weren't as strong as Emperor Ziwei. Kill. Lin Ling held the tyrannical song sword and slashed out fiercely. Rumble. No one could block this slash, and it killed a large number of gods. Of course, if the opponent was a higher god, there would be even more casualties. Bang, bang, bang. However, the gods that had been killed by Lin Ling flickered and came back to life, charging toward Lin Ling. All kinds of divine power and countless chaos treasures blasted toward Lin Ling. Kill. Lin Ling slashed out with his sword again, forming a 10,000-mile-wide sword light that viciously slashed towards the ground. Bang, bang, bang. A large number of attacks were cut off by Lin Ling, and countless gods were killed. However, those gods came back to life once again and returned with murderous intent. One had to admit that the mountain and river map was indeed very powerful and almost invincible. Lin Ling's eyes instantly turned cold. If this continued, it would be useless no matter how strong he was. He would die here sooner or later. There must be some flaw in the mountain and river map. After all, it wasn't a complete universe. At this moment, countless people on the coast looked up with solemn expressions. They had all seen the battle in the mountain and river map and witnessed the power of the mountain and river map. There are so many gods half-step into the universe. Thinking about it, if these gods appeared in the Tao realm, even the 5 emperors wouldn't be able to stop the North Pole Emperor. However, there were great laws in the universe, and the gods in the mountain and river map obviously couldn't enter the Tao realm. Even if they could, they definitely wouldn't be so strong. Lin Ling will die in less than an hour. The North Pole Emperor looked indifferently at the sky with his hands behind his back. He was also extremely shocked by Lin Ling's strength. He didn't expect Lin Ling to be an almost invincible existence below the universe, giant gods. Fortunately, Lin Ling was brought into the mountain and river map. Otherwise, there would definitely be twists and turns in his battle with Lin Ling. Rumble. In the mountain and river map, the crazy battle was still ongoing. Lin Ling killed gods, and the battle was earth-shattering. Unfortunately, the gods around him died quickly and reappeared quickly. Moreover, their numbers were increasing. Terrifying. How could Lin Ling resist the densely packed, half-step giant gods of the cosmos by himself? Too strong. Even if I use my trump card, I can only kill a batch. I can't destroy this universe. I have to think of a way. Chapter 4885. But now, he was surrounded by countless giant gods of the universe. It would not be easy for him to get to the 18 continents. I can also use your pressure to improve my Panga Strike. Lin Ling sat in the sky and chose to comprehend the Pangu Strike. He still had not used his trump card because he felt that it was not the right time yet. Previously, in the Fog Sea, he had killed countless divine beasts and devoured their essence. His physical strength had slowly increased, and now it had reached a new threshold. Kill. At this moment, a large number of attacks came, covering the sky and covering the earth, causing the entire universe to be filled with light. Looking up from the coast, the sky was incomparably magnificent and shocking. Perhaps even the universe giant gods in a mountain river map would be filled with hatred in the underworld. Lin Ling. Above the Fog Sea, Long Yang was extremely worried. At the same time, she said anxiously, "Yellow Emperor, where are you? Lin Ling is in danger now. We still need 3 incense sticks time to rush over." The voice from the other side was also very anxious. Clearly, the Yellow Emperor also knew that the North Pole Emperor was not someone Lin Ling could fight against. Hurry up! Long Yang kept staring at the sky and could not help but complain. It was as if she had seen the most ancient battle of gods. The battle was incomparably fierce. Perhaps the great calamity of the world will back then could not be compared to this. And at this moment, in the mountain river map, Lin Ling was enduring countless attacks. The pressure made his whole body tremble, and Yiguan was also clenching his teeth tightly. If this continued, he would definitely die. However, he still did not choose to use his trump card. Finally, at a certain moment, an ancient gust of wind spread out from his body, turning him into the Pangu's strike, ancient and magnificent. An ancient voice suddenly sounded in Lin Ling's body. "Return, my god." The voice was old, and it spread out in all directions. Lin Ling instantly opened his eyes. He sensed that under the countless attacks, his body was under great pressure. Then he activated the power of the Pangu strike and successfully cultivated a new level. This was the Heaven and Earth slash. Rumble. A series of rumbling sounds resounded within Lin Ling's body. Lin Ling felt as if his bones had turned into mountains, his blood vessels into rivers, his eyes and teeth into stars and moons. This was Pangu. Lin Ling didn't know why it had become like this. He only felt that a steady stream of energy was surging out of his body. It made him feel like he was about to shatter the heavens and collapse the universe. He abruptly stood up, and his figure grew infinitely taller. The tyrannical song, sword in his hand, fell to the ground as if it was out of his control. Pa pa pa! Lin Ling's long hair spread out and danced about like a sea urchin. Moreover, it was growing at a crazy speed. He floated in the air, but as he continued to grow, his legs actually touched the ground. Looking at the surrounding gods, they were now as insignificant as flies. They had all stopped attacking and were making strange noises. What divine ability is this? He turned into a giant. Kill him. Those gods used powerful techniques, but when they landed on the giant Lin Ling's body, it was as if they were just itches. Not to mention injuring Lin Ling. They couldn't even make Lin Ling move an inch. Heaven and Earth slash is the combination of split the heavens and shatter the earth. At this moment, Lin Ling's heart exploded. He knew the power of Pangu's Heaven and Earth slash. This was the invincible power of a god, and it also had split the heavens and shatter the heavens and shatter the earth. Moreover, Lin Ling could only use this divine ability once in the past, but now he felt that he could use it many times. Like shatter the earth, heaven and shatter the earth. Heaven and shatter the earth was particular about time. As long as the time didn't decrease, Lin Ling would be invincible. Only the steps of the gods could hurt Lin Ling. Amazing. Awesome. This is what an ancient giant god should be like. Lin Ling let out a roar, raised his foot, and stomped on the ground. Rumble. The vast and boundless earth cracked open, and the earth shook. Bam, bam, bam. Lin Ling stomped 3 times in a row. Boom. The continent beneath his feet shattered and floated in the sky like an eggshell. The gods around Lin Ling were all affected and were killed by a powerful force. Moreover, at least a small portion of them were unable to be resurrected this time. Sure enough, the flaw in this universe was the 18 continents. Ha! Mountain river map. Watch as my god destroys you. Lin Ling's long hair danced wildly in the wind, and he looked like a savage. He lifted his large feet and sprinted towards another piece of land. His foot stomped down fiercely. Meanwhile, everyone on the continent trembled as they watched a gigantic foot stomp down, threatening to destroy their world. Boom, boom, boom. After a few more stomps, the second continent shattered. At this moment, the shore was deathly silent. All of the gods were staring up at the sky, watching as Lin Ling shattered the mountain river map and stomped down on the universe. What kind of divine ability is this? Emperor Ziwei's expression also changed drastically. He discovered that Lin Ling's power of divinity seemed to be invincible. Moreover, Lin Ling's attacks were extremely terrifying. They possessed the power to shatter the laws of nature and reconstruct the universe. He was far too powerful. This was definitely an extremely ancient divine ability. Boom! The third continent shattered. Then, the fourth continent shattered. The universe within the mountain river map was stirred up by Lin Ling alone, and heaven and earth trembled. When the 18th continent shattered, the entire mountain river map became dim and lifeless. However, at this moment, a gigantic hand stretched out from within, as if a giant had crawled out of the map. It was Lin Ling. Lin Ling's movements were very slow, but in the eyes of everyone, even their breathing slowed down. Giant, this was a true ancient giant. Heaven and earth fell silent for a moment, and everyone could only watch as Lin Ling slowly crawled out. It was as if they were witnessing the birth of an ancient god. In the end, when Lin Ling appeared before everyone's eyes, countless gods could only look up at Lin Ling. Meanwhile, Lin Ling was looking down upon all of heaven and earth. His gaze finally fell upon Emperor Ziwei, and he abruptly thrust his fist backward before crashing down with devastating force, sending gale-force winds sweeping through the air. What a terrifying sight! "You beast, don't you dare!" Emperor Ziwei roared as the Ziwei sword appeared in his hand, and he slashed it toward the sky with a majestic might. He was a giant god of the universe, and his power of divinity had already reached a terrifying level. 10 billion. This was his power of divinity. However, in the face of Lin Ling's gigantic fist, the Ziwei sword was still bent. The power of divinity was completely ineffective against Lin Ling. The gigantic fist crashed directly toward Emperor Ziwei. How was this possible? Emperor Ziwei finally understood just how terrifying Lin Ling was after witnessing Lin Ling's ferocious display of power. No wonder Lin Ling was able to shatter his mountain river map. This was the bloodline of the Pangu. Boom! Emperor Ziwei's gigantic fist crashed viciously into the shore, shattering the shore. However, Lin Ling's fist didn't stop there. It was like a torrential downpour as it rained down upon Emperor Ziwei. Chapter 4886. The giant stepped onto the shore and unleashed a torrential barrage of punches. Violent winds howled, the seawater evaporated, and the earth quaked, and heaven and earth quaked. Countless gods trembled in fear as they drifted through the air in the distance. Even Longyang drew a sharp intake of breath in shock. Emperor Ziwei was a mighty god of the universe. His power was only inferior to that of the 5 emperors. Originally, she had guessed that Lin Ling would only be able to defend passively in the battle until the Yellow Emperor and the other expert arrived. However, never would she have thought that Lin Ling would be able to retaliate and crush Emperor Ziwei in such a domineering manner. How could Emperor Ziwei still be alive after being struck by such a fearsome punch? I estimate that the giant's punch already contains over 2 billion power of divinity, and it also contains an invincible power. That should be Lin Ling's trump card. It's way too powerful. All of the gods who had wanted to kill Lin Ling and were wanted by the heavenly Tao had turned pale with fright. None of them dared to provoke Lin Ling now. 300 million Tao realm fragments were extremely valuable, but they had to be able to obtain them. Ancient Ziwei Emperor Seal. An elderly voice suddenly sounded from the dilapidated shoreline. Purple light soared into the sky as the projection of the 1,000 Emperor Seal descended. The terrifying purple light formed a gigantic barrier of light that continued to expand like an eggshell. Lin Ling's giant fist was gradually blocked by the barrier of light. Lin Ling looked down and could sense just how powerful this barrier of light was. Emperor Ziwei stood in an extremely sorry state with a ferocious expression on his face and an imperial might emanating from his body. Emperor Ziwei was one of the 4 ancient emperors. Aside from the fact that he wasn't as old as the 5 emperors, everything he had done in the past was comparable to the 5 emperors. After reincarnating, he was supposed to be the ruler of this era, However, there were far too many gods in this era, and all of the gods who had disappeared into the river of time had returned. As a result, he was no longer as glorious as he was in the past. However, even a toothless tiger was still a tiger. How could he be crushed by a small god of unknown origins? This battle was the most humiliating battle that Emperor Ziwei had ever fought in many years. Lin Ling, how dare you offend your superior? Emperor Ziwei's long robes danced in the wind, and the Ziwei sword appeared in his hand as he pointed it at the giant Lin Ling. Countless god Emperor Dharma idols appeared around him, all of them looking at the giant Lin Ling with awe-inspiring gazes. They all let out a divine sound, and it was as if a divine decree had arrived. The light they formed continuously strengthened the purple light around them. This was an ancient technique that came from the same era as Lin Ling's Panga Strike, but its origin couldn't compare to the Panga Strike. T. This is no longer the era of the past. Even if the throne is rotated, it's time for someone else to sit on the throne. High up in the sky, Lin Ling let out a loud roar. He felt that the energy in his body had not been used up, so he also activated all of it. Panga's Heaven and Earth Slash was indeed much more powerful and could last for a much longer period of time. However, Lin Ling was unable to defeat Emperor Ziwei with his current attacks, so he had to become even more powerful. Grow. Lin Ling was already a giant, and he was still growing at an insane rate. He was already as large as one of the 9 states, but as he continued to grow, he became as large as the 9 states. His head was almost at the level of the primordial flood. The sturdy shoreline crumbled layer upon layer as seawater soared into the sky. Lin Ling's feet broke through the shoreline and stepped onto the seabed. This guy can still grow bigger. Is he going to transform into the universe? The gods in the distance flew even further away. They were all astonished by Lin Ling's terrifying power. They had naturally seen their fair share of giants. Over the course of several eras, many gods had the ability to grow bigger. However, there was a limit to how big they could grow. Furthermore, no matter how big they became, it would only be an illusion. Their strength would not increase. This was the first time they had seen someone as large as Lin Ling. Most importantly, as Lin Ling grew bigger, his power also seemed to be increasing explosively. It was said that this universe had been created by giants. Now, they felt as if they were witnessing the most ancient giants, the giants who had once created the universe. Emperor Ziwei, do you see how huge I am? You're like a single strand of hair on my body. How dare you speak of the God Emperor in front of me? Lin Ling could feel the power from Panga's attack surging into his body, giving him the feeling of shattering heaven and earth and reshaping an era. Lin Ling, Emperor Ziwei raised his head, and his heart was also filled with shock. He didn't know what kind of technique Lin Ling had unleashed to make him so powerful. The wind I blow is enough to make you do a somersault and disappear into the horizon. The sound of my laughter is enough to make your soul tremble. The look I give you is enough to see through your 3 lifetimes. Even a fart from my mouth is enough to blast you into smithereens. Do you think you can compare to me? Lin Ling looked down at Emperor Ziwei. In his heart, Emperor Ziwei was extremely tiny and weak. It was as if he had transformed into the true giant Pangu. Eat my fist. Lin Ling then let loose a thunderous roar, and violent winds erupted as heaven and earth trembled. This was the power of a giant. Pangu was the giant. His bloodline transformed into the earth. His bones transformed into mountain ranges. His left, I was the sun, and his right, I was the moon. His fist seemed to be imbued with the most ancient power of the universe. The only difference between Lin Ling and Panga's true form was the appearance. Boom! The fist that was the size of an island crashed down, and the shore crumbled again. The gigantic purple light emitted a series of cracking sounds, as if it were carrying an extremely terrifying power. In the end, cracks began to appear on the purple light. A gargantuan fist then crashed heavily into the ground, crushing Emperor Ziwei's body and flattening him into a pulp. Boom! The shoreline collapsed like a house of cards, extending into the distance with no end in sight. PFFF. This time, Emperor Ziwei threw up a mouthful of blood. If it were any other god in his place, they would have already been reduced to smithereens. What a domineering fist! All of the gods in the distance trembled in fear. They hurriedly searched for Emperor Ziwei, only to discover that he was drifting down into the ocean like a kite with its string cut. Wonma and Ipami. However, the severely wounded Emperor Ziwei continued to make mysterious seals with his hands before slamming them toward the gigantic Lin Ling. Freeze! A majestic voice drifted out at the same time. The voice was very simple. It was just a single word, but it was imbued with supreme divine might. After it landed on Lin Ling's body, it actually immobilized Lin Ling. Furthermore, this freeze also possessed the power of sealing, and it caused Lin Ling's body to shrink continuously until he returned to his original size. Emperor Ziwei is indeed powerful. Lin Ling was astonished. Even a giant god of the universe would have been injured by his attacks. Who would have thought that not only would Emperor Ziwei survive, but he would also be able to unleash a powerful attack, as expected of one of the 4 extreme divine emperors. The power of a god, the steps of a god, and even my treasures have been sealed. Chapter 4887. A gigantic vortex appeared in the air not far in front of Lin Ling. It was pitch black inside, and lightning flashed and thunder roared. A forbidden divine wind began to permeate through the air. Then, a true phoenix soared through the sky. A Kuan Peng spread its wings, and the lightning emperor descended upon the world. Countless mythological beasts and divine items rushed out from the gigantic vortex. These were all powerful techniques that Emperor Ziwei had collected in the past, but it also seemed like Emperor Ziwei had communicated with time and space to summon powerful beings to help him. Rumble. Countless divine items rushed toward Lin Ling, as if they were trying to tear Lin Ling to shreds. Even though Lin Ling had shrunk in size, none of the powerful attacks missed, and Lin Ling threw up blood over and over again. His physical body had become much more powerful, but he was still unable to withstand these powerful attacks. Furthermore, he possessed the power of a god. Otherwise, he would have been torn to shreds a long time ago. Of course, the most terrifying attack was still Emperor Ziwei's immobilized technique. It was exactly because of this technique that Lin Ling was unable to resist and could only allow himself to be trampled. Immobilized technique, a technique that originated from goddess Nuwa's mending of the heavens. Back in the day, the universe collapsed, and the boundless power of the void engulfed all living beings. Goddess Nuwa mended the heavens and froze all of the powers from the void in order to successfully mend the heavens. All of the gods in the distance discussed spiritedly with grave expressions on their faces. None of them would have thought that a divine ability from the primordial era would appear before their eyes, much less be mastered by Emperor Ziwei. One had to realize that this immobilizing divine ability could immobilize even the mighty gods of the universe, let alone the greater gods. When cultivated to the pinnacle, even the entire universe could be immobilized. Just think about it. The vast universe had been immobilized, time and space had been immobilized, and countless gods have been immobilized. Just how terrifying was that? As for Lin Ling, he saw all kinds of powerful attacks coming at him. He knew that if he didn't do anything, he would definitely die. All of a sudden, his eyes became as scorching as the sun as a powerful soul power gushed forth. Rumble. Lin Ling's soul power was already at the level of the universe, and it was extremely terrifying. It was as if a god was transcending a tribulation, and it struck everyone with a sense of overwhelming pressure. Soul power. Emperor Ziwei raised his head, and his expression became even more grave. He didn't expect Lin Ling to have so many tricks up his sleeve. Not only was his physical body terrifying, but even his soul force had reached a level where it could suppress everything. Furthermore, Lin Ling's divine essence was also unimaginably powerful. Progress in all major areas. Such a Lin Ling was simply too powerful. No wonder he was invincible even though he had just become a high god. If Lin Ling were to step into the late stage of the higher deity stage, it was likely that even the king-level giant gods of the universe would not be able to suppress him. Universe 3 Extreme Destruction, Demon Destruction. After Lin Ling's soul force appeared, it transformed into a large cosmic ray that stretched for millions of miles, sealing off the area. The cosmic rays washed over, and wherever they passed, all souls would crumble. Soul divine ability, yet another divine ability. Just how many divine abilities is this Lin Ling hiding? Emperor Ziwei's eyes narrowed as he gritted his teeth. He felt as if Lin Ling was hiding countless secrets. And when he thought that he had seen through Lin Ling, he suddenly discovered that Lin Ling still had other secrets that were as unfathomable as ever. Return to the land of the Emperor. Emperor Ziwei let loose an enraged roar, and his voice rumbled through space like divine thunder. After that, the vortex that had appeared in front of Lin Ling appeared in front of Emperor Ziwei this time. Countless divine-level treasures surged forth to resist the cosmic rays in the sky. The final battle between two top-tier gods and two top-tier emperors was about to begin. This was an earth-shattering battle, and it was a clash of heavyweights. Rumble. The cosmic rays swept past, and countless divine-level treasures crashed into the ocean before becoming completely motionless. The cosmic rays were like a waterfall. However, Emperor Ziwei also unleashed an endless stream of divine-level treasures in an attempt to overwhelm the power of the cosmic rays with sheer numbers. Time appeared to be slow, but it passed by in the blink of an eye. Countless gods looked on at this earth-shattering battle, and they were so nervous that they even forgot to breathe. In the end, the cosmic rays were already very close to Emperor Ziwei. 100 meters, 10 meters, and finally 1 meter. Emperor Ziwei felt as if his soul had been severely damaged, and he felt as if he were suffocating as cold sweat poured down his forehead. Bam! However, at this critical moment, the cosmic rays finally disappeared. This was because even though the three extremes of the universe was powerful, there was a limit to it. If it destroyed too many souls, it would eventually be depleted. However, Emperor Ziwei had unleashed too many divine-level treasures, and the three extremes of the universe had been completely depleted. Of course, even so, the cosmic rays were less than 1 meter away from Emperor Ziwei. Emperor Ziwei sensed that he had just been on the brink of death, and he had almost perished. Bam! At the same time, Lin Ling crashed into the ocean, and he looked up at Emperor Ziwei with battle intent burning in his eyes. The two of them stared at each other from afar, and neither of them spoke. Both of them wore extremely grave expressions. Lin Ling was shocked. Emperor Ziwei's strength was simply unfathomable. Emperor Ziwei was also shocked by Lin Ling's means. They were simply endless. They were like the two strongest gods of the current era, facing each other head-on. No one dared to approach the distant gods. They could only look up at the two strongest gods of the current era from afar. Lin Ling, I've found you. But at this moment, divine voices rolled over. Two gods arrived from afar, and each transformed into a large hand that grabbed at Lin Ling. These two people were extremely powerful. They were true god Penghua and Emperor Yuan. They obviously didn't expect that Lin Ling was still alive and had become so strong. Previously, they were notified by Emperor Ziwei and had been watching the battle since then. They witnessed Lin Ling's tyrannical power that could tear apart heaven and earth. This made them realize that they must immediately capture Lin Ling and bring him back to White Mountain. Moreover, they were also trembling in fear. If they were to face Lin Ling one-on-one, they might die if they weren't careful. Fortunately, this was the best opportunity. But just as they moved, a large amount of divine light soared into the sky from afar. It was the arrival of the Yellow Thearcha's powerhouses. Damn it, True God Peng Hua and Emperor Yuan cursed, but they weren't surprised by the appearance of the Yellow Thearcha's group. After all, this was the Yellow Thearcha's territory. Lin Ling. In the distance, a mighty divine light arrived. In the blink of an eye, it appeared in front of everyone's eyes. It was the Yellow Thearch and the others, including Yu Yu and the others. After seeing Lin Ling, they were all ecstatic. Lin Ling was arranged by the Yellow Thearch to do a mission last time. Unexpectedly, after many twists and turns, he became a wanted criminal of the Heavenly Tao, making it difficult for him to return. They were very worried about this, but they all believed that Lin Ling would be able to return. Now, after such a long time, they finally saw Lin Ling. Bang, bang, bang. Powerhouses landed on the sea surface one after another, looking at Emperor Ziwei and the others majestically. As for Emperor Ziwei and the others, their expressions were ugly as they remained silent. Lin Ling, the Yellow Thearch, walked out from the crowd step by step, and his face was full of shock. Previously, he had already sensed the shocking battle here from afar. He never expected that Lin Ling would become so strong, comparable to a god emperor. I'm fine. Lin Ling nodded at the Yellow Thearch. Then, he looked at Emperor Ziwei and said indifferently, "It's a draw." Indeed, Emperor Ziwei also nodded. The battle between him and Lin Ling with all their might was indeed a draw. Chapter 4888. Thinking of this, Emperor Ziwei suddenly looked at Lin Ling, his eyes full of killing intent. He knew that if he missed this opportunity, he would never be able to kill Lin Ling again. True God Peng Hua and Emperor Yuan also looked at Lin Ling. They knew that if they let him leave this time, it would be very, very difficult to catch Lin Ling again. But now, the Yellow Emperor was here, and there were countless powerhouses there. It would be even more difficult to touch Yihan. Let me help you. But at this moment, a deafening sound appeared in the sky. Dark clouds rolled, and divine lights soared into the sky. A dense group of gods arrived. Leading them was a naked man with long hair fluttering in the wind. Who else could it be but Emperor Yao? Emperor Yao had obviously received the news and now took the initiative to kill Lin Ling. And behind him, countless gods followed. There were higher gods, half-step giant gods, and innumerable others. Millions of murderous weapons. No one expected that Emperor Yao would actually mobilize everyone in order to kill Yihan. Emperor Yao. The Yellow Emperor's eyes narrowed. This was his territory, and Emperor Yao dared to attack? It seemed that Emperor Yao and the others were going all out. But Lin Ling alone wasn't enough to make Emperor Yao fight to the death. It seems that Emperor Yao and the others know that Lin Ling is the host of the world's will. The Yellow Emperor instantly guessed after pondering for a moment, and he guessed that the reason why Emperor Yao was so crazy was because of the support of the 3 divine gates of White Mountain. Kill Lin Ling. Millions of murderous weapons shouted in unison. Their momentum was earth-shattering, and the seawater at the edge of the sea of fog evaporated. Lin Ling is the host of the world's will, and his ambition is to destroy the world. Kill Lin Ling and return peace to our universe. Emperor Yao, who was leading the group, shouted as a long ruler appeared in his hand. He pointed it at Lin Ling from afar. What? Lin Ling is the host of the world's will? Oh my God! Has the host of the world's will finally surfaced? No wonder this Lin Ling is so powerful. In such a short period of time, his strength has skyrocketed. It turns out that his origin is really not small. Kill Lin Ling. Revenge for that year must be avenged. Under Emperor Yao's shout, many gods also joined the battlefield, and this was also the first time Lin Ling's identity was exposed. Once the identity of the host of the world was revealed, there was no doubt that the entire situation had changed. Emperor Yao. At this moment, Lin was also the Emperor's will. He wasn't surprised. He knew that it would come sooner or later, but he didn't expect this day to come at such a time. To him, to the Emperor, to the world, to choose the Yellow Emperor tomb. At this moment, another powerful aura came from another direction. It was a huge demonic eye. This demonic eye seemed to lead to the darkest corner of the universe, giving off an extremely cold aura. In the demonic eye, a woman was sitting there. It was Emperor Xian. At the same time, a gigantic demon snake slithered out from the depths of the demon eye. The demon snake's entire body was blood red, and it was incomparably huge. Its skin had no scales, and instead, it was wrinkled like an earthworm. At the very front of its head was a gigantic red eyeball. Snake of the level hill. Many gods stared at the demon snake, their bodies trembling and their scalps going numb. They had heard that this was the ancestor of all snakes. Back then, it had appeared in the ancient grasslands and devoured everything. Later, it was subdued by the ancient emperor and hidden in his underground world. The Emperor Xian was the leader of the women. In that era, women had the most power, especially the Emperor Xian. She swept through the ages and defeated all her enemies. Emperor Xian is here too. The Yellow Emperor's expression became even more serious. He's here, he's finally here. The North Pole Emperor's body trembled, and he became inexplicably excited. His eyes were fixed on Lin Ling. This time, he wanted Lin Ling dead. Ding ding dang dang. In the distance, the blood snake let out a crisp sound, as if there were countless bells on its body. It was pleasing to the ears, but in the hearts of everyone, it was like a soul-luring song. Emperor Yao's million weapons were glaring like tigers watching their prey. The situation was extremely unfavorable for the Yellow Emperor. Looks like Lin Ling is dead for sure. Good. As long as the will of the world doesn't die, we'll never have a peaceful day. Kill Lin Ling. More and more gods arrived, surrounding the area so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Everyone, listen to me. At this time, the silent Yellow Emperor finally spoke. I admit that there indeed will hosts in my territory. But have you thought about it? They won't die. Even if you kill them, they'll just reincarnate. What's the point of that? The Yellow Emperor said calmly. Yellow Emperor, I respect you for your virtue and prestige. What do you want to say? A god of considerable seniority asked. The will of the world doesn't always want to destroy the world. They also want to help us. The Yellow Emperor shouted, I'm too familiar with these people. They cherish the present and like this universe. They will never destroy the universe. They just want to protect the universe together, like us. Moreover, no matter how powerful the giant gods were, they were still no match for the world's will. This shows that to defeat the world's will, we still have to rely on the will of the world. Everyone, believe in me. At the end of his speech, the Yellow Emperor looked at everyone with a sincere expression. Everyone fell silent. They had to admit that what the Yellow Emperor said made sense. Ha ha, nonsense. But suddenly, a loud shout interrupted everyone's silence. Everyone, don't forget the humiliation back then. Don't forget how the worlds will destroy the world and how our family and friends died in the hands of the world's will. I, Emperor Yuan, will never forget that day. My Tao companion, my disciples, and my descendants were all ruthlessly crushed by the world's will and turned into ashes. This deep hatred, I will never forget it. The one who spoke was Emperor Yuan. At this moment, his eyes were red and filled with killing intent. Lin Ling's eyes narrowed. Emperor Yuan was a member of the 3 major divine gates of White Mountain. Was he qualified to talk about the will of the world? After all, after the 3 major divine gates of White Mountain, the world's will of the world was almost the strongest. Everyone, don't listen to the Yellow Emperor. He's lying to us. At this time, true God Penghua also spoke. The will of the world is destined to destroy the world. Even if it's good now, it's just an act. In my opinion, the Yellow Emperor wants to control the entire universe and the will of the world. That's why he helped the will of the world. I know that the heavens have the virtue of cherishing life, so everyone also wants to give the will of the world a way out. However, we are kind, but the will of the world isn't. They want to take our bones, drink our blood, and destroy our home. At the end of his speech, true God Penghua was filled with righteous indignation. Voices also began to come from all around. They wanted to crusade against the will of the world. They couldn't afford to gamble. Chapter 4889. Yellow Emperor. You don't have to bewitch everyone anymore. Emperor Yao also sneered. I know that you can't fight against us anymore. That's why you're bewitching everyone. Don't think that I don't know your tricks. Emperor Yao knew that this was the best opportunity. He must not let the Yellow Emperor cause trouble again. Yellow Emperor, you are the oldest celestial emperor of mankind. I respect you as a person, but you shouldn't interfere in this matter. One of the gods shouted loudly. Yes, as long as you hand over the world will host, we won't touch you. Even more gods were roaring loudly. Lin Ling, Lei Gong, Longyang Xiaoluan, the four of them are all hosts of the world will. Someone shouted, causing the eyes of the gods to narrow. They never expected that the Yellow Emperor had so many hosts of the world will. One must know that there were 9 hosts of the world, and the Yellow Emperor alone had 4 of them. However, Lin Ling saw who was shouting. It was Emperor Yuan. He instantly knew that this was the will of Dipankara Buddha. The latter wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop and devour all the hosts of the world, while to fight against the Grandmaster of Heaven. Hand them over. More voices sounded. Dong, dong, dong. War drums sounded between heaven and earth. More gods arrived, their might shaking the world. They were openly forcing the Yellow Emperor. The Yellow Emperor frowned as he looked at the scene in front of him. It could be said that since he became the Celestial Emperor, this was the first time he was forced to abdicate. One must know that for a long time, the people in the world respected and worshipped him more. If you don't hand them over, kill the Yellow Emperor. Emperor Yao's eyes were cold. He summoned the gods, wanting to use this opportunity to eliminate the Yellow Emperor. Yellow Emperor, what should we do? Seeing such a mighty scene, Ning Wading, who was beside the Yellow Emperor, hurriedly asked. If they hand over the people, they would be safe and sound. If they don't hand them over, they would all be in danger. The gods behind the Yellow Emperor had all arrived at this moment. But compared to the gods around them, they were still much weaker. After all, there were 2 ancient emperors gathered here, gods from countless eras. Lin Ling. At this moment, Longyang, Lei Gong, and the others came to Lin Ling's side. They were incomparably nervous. Facing the gods of several eras, they couldn't even resist. Yu, go to the Yellow Emperor's side immediately. Lin Ling ignored Lei Gong and the others and said to Yu and the others. He knew that many people wanted to kill Yu and the others to kill them. You'd go to the Yellow Emperor's side. Unfortunately, Yu and the others all shook their heads, especially Indra and treasure god Nanwu Fengyu. Not only did they not leave, but they all walked towards Lin Ling to show their determination. Lin Ling sighed softly and did not try to persuade them. These people had been through thick and thin together for many years. He knew that it was impossible to persuade them to leave. Unfortunately, I fought with Ziwei Emperor before. My trump card needs time to recover. Otherwise, I wouldn't be so helpless. Lin Ling kept thinking. Sorry, I have made up my mind. At this time, the Yellow Emperor finally raised his head and said his decision. Senior Yellow Emperor, what do you mean? A god frowned and asked. What I mean is that Lin Ling and the others must not be handed over. Because I know that some of you here are not doing this for the whole universe, but for your own selfish interests. If they get Lin Ling and the others, the universe will be destroyed even faster. The Yellow Emperor looked at Emperor Yuan and the others and guessed their intentions. Moreover, he knew very well that if Lin Ling and the others were devoured, Dipankara Buddha would become even stronger. On the other hand, Lin Ling and the others were still alive, which could restrain Dipankara Buddha. Stubborn. I think there's no need to persuade him anymore. Let's do it. Yes, kill the will of the world. The gods roared. They wouldn't give the Yellow Emperor any more chances. Rumble. A war chariot appeared on the horizon, destroying everything in its path. On the ground, a large number of divine beasts suddenly appeared in the originally dry seawater. They roared towards the sky, preparing to fight to the death. Millions of murderous weapons, overflowing murderous aura. Flattened hill, demon snake, devouring everything. Kill. Emperor Yao saw that everyone's morale was greatly boosted. The giant ruler in his hand pointed forward, as if he had returned to the most ancient era, leading countless ancient gods to fight on the battlefield. Protect the Yellow Emperor. The gods beside the Yellow Emperor followed him from the ancient era. They were loyal and devoted, and they charged forward without hesitation. Kill. Lin Ling and Lei Gong also rushed forward. At this point, they had no choice but to fight to the death and survive in this war of gods. Swish! Lin Ling's eyes were cold as he looked ahead. The Yellow Emperor protected him with his life. Lin Ling also remembered this kindness in his heart. Lin Ling, I'll go with Long Yang and the others. You go with Yu Yu and the others. At this moment, the Thunder God's voice was heard, and Lin Ling nodded. Lei Gong, Long Yang, and the others had the power of the world's will and had learned how to control it. They were very strong and could fight against late-stage high gods. On the other hand, Yu Yu, Nanwu Fengyu, and the others were weaker, so they went with Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling also had experts on his side, such as Xianxia, the wielder of the Dongwang Bell, the young Qilin, and the bloodline of the Qilin god. It was a pity that the giant ghost wasn't here. Otherwise, he would definitely be able to sweep across the battlefield. Swish! The tyrannical song sword appeared in Lin Ling's hand, and he relied on his powerful divine energy to kill a late-stage high god. The mid-stage high gods were like vegetables in front of him. They couldn't stop him at all. However, Lin Ling's gaze fell upon Emperor Ziwei. He knew that Emperor Ziwei wanted to fight him the most. The battle that they hadn't finished before was now about to begin. Rumble! Lin Ling wielded his Tyrant Song sword and charged toward Emperor Ziwei with unstoppable force. Bam, bam, bam! When the two swords clashed, a deafening boom erupted, and waves of terrifying power annihilated all of the surrounding high gods. Lin Ling's opponent was none other than Emperor Ziwei. At this moment, Emperor Ziwei wielded the Ziwei Divine Sword and charged toward Lin Ling. Boom! Lin Ling was unable to withstand this attack, and his body flew backward. Moreover, a powerful force invaded his body, injuring him again. Without his trump cards, Lin Ling was no match for Emperor Ziwei. After all, the latter was a giant god of the universe. Ha-ha-die! Emperor Ziwei followed up with another attack, and his sword was like the universe itself, capable of destroying all things. You can't, Emperor Ziwei. True God Peng Hua and the others roared in unison. They had to bring Lin Ling back alive, so they couldn't allow Emperor Ziwei to kill him. Don't worry, I'll take his life and leave you the power of the realm intent. Emperor Ziwei wasn't stupid. He didn't dare to offend the three divine sects of the White Mountain. Then his ferocious sword, which was imbued with the terrifying power of a god, landed in front of Lin Ling and sliced Lin Ling in half. It was too easy. It was so easy that Emperor Ziwei was stunned. However, after thinking about it, everything was normal. After all, Lin Ling didn't have any ancient divine abilities. At most, he was only an invincible high god. Chapter 4890. This sword strike was incomparably sudden, and its killing intent was deafening. It was as if an illusory universe was crashing down. The power of God was also incomparably terrifying. Emperor Ziwei's heart trembled violently. He turned around and found that the killing sword was terrifying, but the god behind it was even more terrifying. Lin Ling's eyes seemed to emit two sharp beams of light that shot toward Emperor Ziwei. Boom! Emperor Ziwei's black hair was disheveled, and his body glowed with light. Clouds swirled around him, and he exuded an extremely astonishing aura. He hurriedly slashed out with his Ziwei sword. At this moment, heaven and earth trembled. The two swords clashed again, and the power of a god swept out in all directions, killing all the gods nearby. This was a clash between two giant gods of the universe. Although there were giant gods of the universe present, there weren't many of them. Most of them were half-step giant gods of the universe. Hence, the impact of the clash between Lin Ling and Emperor Ziwei was very large. Emperor Ziwei's body trembled as he sensed that Lin Ling's sword strike contained a mysterious power. It was the power of a god of slaughter, and it also brought him into an illusionary realm that affected his combat ability. This brat's techniques are truly terrifying. Emperor Ziwei was shocked and flustered. He thought that Lin Ling had exhausted all of his trump cards, but who would have thought that Lin Ling still had another trump card up his sleeve? Wong Wong Wong. Under the influence of the illusionary realm, Lin Ling's sword strike wounded Emperor Ziwei, adding to his already wounded state. Lin Ling took advantage of this opportunity and slashed down with his sword again. The terrifying killing intent seemed to materialize as it attempted to engulf Emperor Ziwei. I was too careless. Although Emperor Ziwei was affected by the illusionary realm, he was still a giant god of the universe. The eternal killing realm didn't affect him too much. However, he was injured, and his combat ability was affected by the eternal killing realm, so he couldn't block Lin Ling's sword strike. Bam bam bam. He clashed with the Ziwei sword and stumbled back several steps. The blood in his body roiled, and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. Lin Ling. Emperor Ziwei roared. However, he was still affected by the illusionary realm, as if he couldn't see Lin Ling. Lin Ling's sword continued to slash toward Emperor Ziwei, inflicting more and more injuries upon him, and he was forced back over and over again. If this continued, he would undoubtedly die. Never had he imagined that he would actually fall into a disadvantageous position in the next battle. Of course, this was also caused by his carelessness. If he had known about Lin Ling's illusory slaughter earlier, he would have taken precautions and reduced the influence of the illusory slaughter to the minimum. Lin Ling, don't be rude. At this moment, True God Peng Hua and Emperor Yuan attacked at the same time. Although these two were also king-level universe giant gods, they were obviously much stronger than Emperor Ziwei. A huge pressure pressed down on him, causing Lin Ling's pupils to constrict. He retreated at full speed. He was only able to evade Emperor Ziwei's attack and counterattack because of Panga's absolute shock. Even though Lin Ling had used all of his trump cards, he hadn't used his speed trump card yet. Once absolute soul shock was used, Lin Lin's speed increased by 100%, reaching the speed of 100 million worlds. So fast, True God Peng Hua and Emperor Yuan's attacks had just arrived when Lin Ling disappeared, shocking them. Of course, they didn't use their full strength. After all, their goal was to capture Lin Ling. Catch him. The two of them unleashed their full strength and attacked Lin Ling continuously. Lin Ling's speed was at full speed. Not only did he avoid the attacks of the two gods, but he also took the time to deal with the enemies for Yu Yu and the others. For a time, many gods died in Lin Ling's hands. Damn it, how can this kid be so fast? He has reached 100 million world speed. Even the gods at the peak of the higher deity stage don't have such speed. The two gods' expressions were extremely ugly, but they could also see that Lin Ling's heaven-defying method had a time limit. Therefore, they only needed to wait. Lin Ling fought 3 universe giant gods in a row. If it weren't for him, our battle would have ended even faster. The battle between gods broke out all over the coast. There were also people who were watching the battle on Lin Ling's side. Of course, more people were watching Emperor Yao. The battle between Emperor Shun and the Yellow Emperor was the most terrifying. If the ancient emperor was angry, the world would be destroyed. The collision of the 3 ancient emperors also caused countless gods to be implicated, causing countless deaths and injuries. A huge vortex burst out in the sky above the coast. The terrifying power of gods was constantly swallowing and spitting out. This was the ferocious power formed by the collision of the 3 ancient emperors. Oh no, the battle was too intense, causing some gods to get close to the vortex. Then, they were sucked into the vortex and turned into nothingness. This vortex was too terrifying. The power formed by it was unstoppable. Moreover, the vortex was huge. It was millions of miles wide, comparable to the area of a prefecture in the 9 prefectures. If such a vortex of gods appeared in the void of the 9 prefectures, the entire void would be destroyed and the universe would disappear. The Yellow Emperor was restraining the 2 ancient emperors. This caused the pressure on the Yellow Emperor's side to decrease a lot, but the situation was still not good. He ignored all the gods and fought against the strongest gods, preventing the battle from being one-sided. Lin Ling was restraining the 3 giant gods of the universe, but as time passed, Lin Ling's situation was getting worse. His power of absolute soul was disappearing. As for the 3 extremes of universe, he was still a little bit away from recovering. Lin Ling caught you. True God Peng Hua and Emperor Yuan seized the opportunity and attacked Lin Ling crazily. As long as they caught Lin Ling, the rest of Lei Gong and the others would be easy to deal with. You dare to provoke the 3 divine sects of the White Mountain. Today, you should know how powerful the 3 divine sects of the White Mountain are. True God Peng Hua made a move. The flaming universe appeared and suppressed Lin Ling. Even though Lin Ling used Gray Robe and had the eternal killing world, after colliding with the flaming universe, his figure was immediately sent flying, and he vomited blood repeatedly. Too strong. It had probably reached 5 billion power of divinity. Moreover, Lin Ling had a feeling that the other party didn't use his full strength at all because True God Peng Hua was afraid of killing Lin Ling otherwise. The power of divinity would have reached 10 billion. Lin Ling's talent fusion was only 2 billion. He couldn't block it at all. Trash Lin Ling, you have repeatedly ruined our plans. Now, show me what you've done. After True God Peng Hua made his move, Emperor Yuan also made his move. With one move, Lin Ling retreated again, vomiting blood continuously. Suppressed. Lin Ling, who had exhausted all his trump cards, could only be suppressed heavily now. Lin Ling, my lord. Lei Gong and the others roared in the distance. Although Lin Ling was being suppressed, they all knew that Lin Ling fought against 3 giant gods of the universe alone. Among them, Emperor Ziwei was seriously injured by Lin Ling. Now that Lin Ling was being suppressed, it wasn't embarrassing at all. Lin Ling, are you still not going to surrender? True God Peng Hua attacked, and Lin Ling was injured again. From the beginning, you should have submitted to our divine sections. Do you think you have the capital to fight against us? Emperor Yuan also attacked. My lord, at this time, Xianxia overcame all difficulties and activated the Eastern Emperor Bell, smashing it down fiercely. Chapter 4891. Pooh! They forcefully removed the bloodline imprint on the Eastern Emperor Bell, then laughed loudly. Eastern Emperor Bell, great, it belongs to us. Pooh! Xianxia noticed that he had lost contact with the Eastern Emperor Bell and immediately vomited blood. He was seriously injured. Idiot! With your strength, you dare to help Lin Ling? This is like a mantis blocking a chariot. Seeing that you gave us treasures, I'll leave you with an intact corpse. True God Peng Hua was in a good mood. He looked at Xianxia with contempt and slapped him fiercely, wanting to kill him. Xianxia, seeing this scene, Lei Gong, Long Yang, and the others abandoned their opponents and pounced on Xianxia, erupting with powerful world wills. Rumble. A total of 3 people activated the world wills, and under the fierce collision of power, they actually blocked True God Peng Hua's attack. As expected of the world wills, this strength is amazing. True God Peng Hua was slightly shocked, but he didn't take it seriously. After all, Lei Gong and the others were still too weak, not as abnormal as Lin Ling. You want to save him, but I must kill him. True God Peng Hua and Emperor Yuan looked at each other and pounced on Xianxia. With the 2 of them working together, let's see how Lei Gong and the others were going to block them. In fact, Lei Gong and the others have been fighting for so long that the world wills have been almost exhausted. How could they block the joint attack of 2 universe giant gods? They were all sent flying by the powerful airwaves. If it weren't for the fact that True God Peng Hua and the others didn't dare to kill Lei Gong and the others, Lei Gong and the others would have died long ago. Come, save him. After Lei Gong and the others were sent flying, true god Peng Hua also mocked them. He wanted to see who could save Xianxia. Don't come over. Xianxia felt a lot of pressure, but he also roared. He didn't want everyone to die for him, because he knew very well that no one could block the attacks of these universe giant gods. Helping him would only add a few more corpses. Xianxia, Yu, Lei Gong, and the others roared as they saw the holy return life and death calamity. Their eyes were moist. Xianxia had fought alongside them for many years and had always protected them. Every time an enemy came, Xianxia would be the first to rush up and block the enemy. He was Lin Ling's right-hand man. How did he die here? Brother Ling, quickly save him. After Yu shouted, she suddenly looked at the weak Lin Ling. You can't let him die. He's your brother. Bang! Lin Ling clenched his teeth and struggled to take a step forward. However, his injuries were too severe and the battle had been going on for too long. He simply didn't have the strength to resist the two giant cosmos gods. Ha ha ha! Real god Peng Hua naturally saw Lin Ling, and he could not help but laugh sarcastically. Lin Ling was the host of the world's will. He couldn't kill him, but Lin Ling had wasted so much of their time. If they couldn't deal him a heavy blow, they would find it difficult to vent the hatred in their hearts. Come on, Lin Ling. Emperor Yuan was the same. He admired Lin Ling's unwillingness but helpless look the most. Lin Ling. At this moment, Anywhere also shouted at Lin Ling, "Come on, now. Only you can save Xianxia. For so many years, no matter what kind of storms we faced, you have withstood them for us. This time, you could do it too. Lin Ling, I know you've tried your best. You are already very tired, but fight for Xianxia again." Xianyuangu also shouted. "Ah!" Lin Ling roared towards the sky. His long hair danced wildly as he kept drawing out the power in his body. However, all that was left for him was the power of God. This power of God was no match for the giant cosmos gods. Kill. However, Lin Ling took a step forward and charged towards the two giant cosmos gods. His sword slashed out fiercely. "My lord." Looking at Lin Ling, Xianxia's eyes were also wet. He knew that Lin Ling was already going all out. He was already fighting with his life on the line. However, sometimes in this universe, power was eternal. It wasn't something that could be changed by willpower, unwillingness, and fighting spirit. "My lord, in my next life, I will be your underling again. Don't bother about me." Xianxia shouted at Lin Ling. "Dream on." Lin Ling's eyes turned red. He slashed his weak sword fiercely at true god Peng Hua and Xianyuangu. His sword was very slow. Its power was also very weak. However, he still slashed out resolutely, because he couldn't bear to see his brother die in front of his eyes. And he didn't do anything. If that was the case, he would never forgive himself in the future. Ha ha! Seeing Lin Ling fighting with his life on the line, true god Peng Hua and Xianyuangu laughed even louder. They were enjoying this carefree scene. However, at this moment, Lin Ling sensed a surge of power within the tyrannical Song Sword. This power was very unfamiliar. Moreover, Lin Ling knew that he had used up all his trump cards. Why would there suddenly be an unfamiliar power? The most frightening thing was that Lin Ling clearly sensed that this power didn't have any killing intent. Instead, it was as gentle as water. Suddenly, Lin Ling realized what was going on. In his body, there was a power that he had never controlled before. This was the power of the world's will. In the end, even if I am exhausted, I will never give up. Because this is my belief. Lin Ling suddenly shouted. The sword in his hand suddenly shone brightly, and the killing intent disappeared. It was as if he was holding a divine light that shone in all directions. The entire coastal battlefield was affected, and it was shaking nonstop. Everyone stared at Lin Ling, and their expressions changed drastically. The power of the world's will. Lei Gong and Xianyuangu trembled all over. They sensed that Lin Ling's sword was exuding a familiar power, but it was extremely different from theirs. How could they know that their previous calls for Lin Ling had become their belief? Lin Ling was their belief. Every time a massacre came, Every time a storm came, it was their belief that brought them across all kinds of dangers and to the other side. Boom! With a slash of the sword, a white light swept across, reaching thousands of miles long, shocking the world. True God Peng Hua and Emperor Yuan's pupils trembled. What kind of power is this? Boom! Leaving behind only one sentence, they turned into nothingness. They couldn't be more dead. Even if they had the protection of the Tao realm, it was useless. And behind them, countless gods were implicated and turned into nothingness. But what was terrifying was that Lei Gong and the others were also in that direction, but they were safe and sound. They only felt a gust of wind blowing across their bodies. They didn't know that because of their belief, they couldn't die. The battle of gods fell silent for a short while. All the gods stared at Lin Ling in the sky, their pupils trembling. What a terrifying sword! With the strength of a higher god, he killed a giant god of the universe. As expected of the host of the world's will. Sword of Faith. Lin Ling stood weakly in the sky, looking at the sword in his hand and sensing the power of the world's will in his body. Then, a burst of dizziness came, and Lin Ling was completely unconscious as he smashed towards the ground. My lord! But at the critical moment, a palm suddenly grabbed Lin Ling's hand and held him back. It was Xianxia. At this moment, tears were dripping down his face. He knew that his lord had saved him once again. Chapter 4892. The entire battlefield was completely silent at this moment. All the battles between gods had stopped. Countless gods were staring at the sleeping Lin Ling in the sky. Their pupils were trembling, and their hearts were trembling. The power of the world's will. They had seen Lin Ling unleash the power of the world's will and kill 2 giant universe gods with a single strike. Unbelievable! According to their guesses, Lin Ling was probably an extremely powerful existence among the hosts of the world's will. Dead, true God Peng Hua and the others are dead. Emperor Zui's entire body was trembling as he looked at the sky with a pale face. Even though Lin Ling was unconscious, his life and death were unknown. But when he looked at that figure, he still trembled and did not dare to face it head-on. If he had continued to fight Lin Ling, perhaps he would have followed in the footsteps of true God Peng Hua and the others. He felt like he was dreaming. Back then, his son had come to the Tao Pagoda area, but someone had killed his son along the way, causing him to fly into a rage. When he saw the person clearly, he knew that it was a minor god named Lin Ling. He hated this minor god to the bone and was determined to crush his bones and scatter his ashes. However, before he could find this minor god had killed his people and stolen his treasures. When he found an opportunity to kill this minor god, he suddenly discovered that this ordinary-looking minor god actually had the strength to kill him. In that short instant, Emperor Zui was struck by a pang of regret, as if he shouldn't have provoked Lin Ling. Of course, Emperor Zui also knew that the enmity between him and Lin Ling had already been formed, and it was impossible for them to make peace. Therefore, he had to kill Lin Ling. He had to watch Lin Ling die in front of him. He's already fainted. Why aren't you killing him? Kill him, Emperor Zui shouted, pleasantly surprised everyone. Many people's eyes turned cold, and the shock from before disappeared quietly. Instead, it was replaced by a surge of killing intent that soared into the sky. Lin Ling had already displayed the power of the world's will. It was very terrifying and very strong. Most importantly, Lin Ling was only an early-stage high god. What if he became a peak high god? What if he became a giant god of the universe? Perhaps the dusk of the gods would repeat itself. Lin Ling was a ticking time bomb. He had to die, or they would never be able to rest in peace. Kill him. Meanwhile, Emperor Yao spoke with monstrous killing intent. Everyone, why are you still showing mercy? If he doesn't die, then it'll be the end of us. Although the White Mountain 3 sacred gates wanted to capture Lin Ling alive, he would rather have Lin Ling die. This was because he was even more astonished than Emperor Zui. After all, when he was at the Tao realm, Lin Ling was nothing more than an ant that could be crushed with the flip of a hand. And now, Lin Ling was a great threat to his life. Back then, if I hadn't sided with the giant white tiger god and helped Lin Ling instead, Lin Ling would already be one of my people. Although Emperor Yao had to kill Lin Ling no matter what, when he thought of what happened back then, he felt a wave of regret. Kill. At this moment, the demonic eye in the sky released an endless amount of green light. The green light was incomparably thick and shot out in all directions like a giant green sun. Emperor Yao had already made the first move. She abandoned the Yellow Emperor and wanted to kill Lin Ling first. Kill. Seeing Emperor Yao make the first move, Emperor Yao also came to his senses and slashed his ruler at Lin Ling. Kill Lin Ling first. The angry roars of the gods sounded at the same time. All the gods focused their attacks on Lin Ling, ignoring everyone else. As a result, Lin Ling was under a lot of pressure. His life depended on this moment. However, Lin Ling was already unconscious from his injuries. How could he stop them? Bastard. Saint Guy was still holding Lin Ling's hand. He couldn't help but roar as he looked at the power coming from all directions. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and anger. He had long known that Lin Ling was the host of the world's consciousness, but he believed that his lord would never destroy the world. In fact, his lord had repeatedly opposed the host of the world's consciousness in order to protect everyone around him. However, the people attacking now were completely unreasonable. They only wanted to kill Lin Ling. They didn't even know that there was a powerful host of the world's consciousness among them. It was the three divine sects of White Mountain. However, who would dare to kill the three divine sects of White Mountain? Big Brother Ling, Lin Ling. In the distance, Yu Yu, Nanwu Fengyu, and Treasure God Nanwu Fengyu all anxiously shouted. Ever since they reached the Dao realm, they had encountered many life and death situations. However, this time was the biggest and most dangerous one. Lin Ling will not destroy the world. However, at this moment, an old voice rang out. From a giant black vortex, a surging river rushed out majestically. The river grew bigger and fiercer, as if it was the first river in the universe. The Yellow Emperor had made his move. Moreover, the river he summoned was more than twice as powerful as the one he summoned against Emperor Yao before. Rumble. All the powerful forces near Lin Ling were swept away by the river and disappeared into the distance. Lin Ling was only separated from the gods by a river, but it was like the distance between heaven and earth. No attack could affect him. Kill. Emperor Yao slashed out with his green ruler. A green light, like an endless amount of plants, slashed towards the river. However, it disappeared into the river without a trace. Looking back at Emperor Shun, the giant snake under her control was washed away as soon as it got close to the ancient river. The one-eyed giant snake kept rolling in the river and finally turned into white bones, disappearing into the distance. This river was too majestic. It was like the most ancient and powerful force in the world. The Yellow Emperor was actually hiding such power. Emperor Yao's expression was incomparably ugly. He knew that the Yellow Emperor had held back when he fought him. Although he was surprised by this, he also felt that it was normal. After all, the Yellow Emperor rarely took action. Among the deities of several eras, very few knew of his full strength. Now, he was probably going all out, and this kind of full strength was extremely terrifying. No one could hurt Lin Ling. Ill fate, Lin Ling, come back. While the river was protecting Lin Ling, a huge swastika suddenly appeared in the sky. It slowly rotated and bloomed with endless Buddhist light. An ancient power had descended upon the shore, and this power was incomparably terrifying. It actually passed through the Yellow Emperor's river and tied Lin Ling up into the sky. Looking carefully, the Buddhist light had unknowingly turned into endless Buddhist prayer beads that wrapped around Lin Ling. Dipankara Buddha! In the surging river, the Yellow Emperor's aged voice sounded, incomparably shocked. He clearly did not expect that Dipankara Buddha, who was far away in the primal chaos realm, would stick his hand into the Tao Pagoda. This strength was truly heaven-defying. Yellow Emperor, this child is of great importance. For the sake of the universe, I must take him away. Chapter 4893. Go! The Yellow Emperor controlled the surging river and rushed towards the sky, wanting to rescue Lin Ling, who had been taken away. However, his ancient river rushed towards the sky, and a Buddhist light bloomed, blocking the power of his river. Dipankara Buddha was too strong. Ma and I yield. However, at this moment, a clear voice sounded. In the distant horizon, the Buddhist light shone, and the divine sound entered one's ears, turning into an invisible force that dimmed the huge swastika in the sky. Moreover, a gentle force lingered around Lin Ling, who was wrapped around the Buddhist beads, making it difficult for him to fly towards the sky. Buddha against Buddha. Your Excellency, Buddhism is boundless. May I know who you are? In the sky, a benevolent voice sounded quietly. Ning Qingxin. In the distance, a calm voice sounded, and then a figure walked over. She did not seem to be walking fast, but in the blink of an eye, she appeared under the sky and looked at the swastika in the sky indifferently. As for this woman, no one knew her. However, no one expected her Buddhist Dharma to be so powerful that she could fight against Dipankara Buddha. Ning Qingxin. However, among the crowd, Lei Gong suddenly shouted in shock. Of course, he knew Ning Qingxin. Back then, he and Lin Ling were chased by Emperor Shan and finally escaped to the great Buddha kingdom. After that, they met a woman on the path of Mahayana Buddhism. This woman pursued the purest supreme Buddhist Dharma. Because Lin Ling had obtained Mahayana Buddhism, she humbly came to ask for it. However, in the void, this woman was injured by the evil spider god and was on the verge of death. It was Lin Ling who kept her alive, fighting against the heavens, fighting against humans, and fighting against the underworld. In the end, he saved her from death and allowed her to reincarnate again. Unexpectedly, Ning Qingxin had returned now. Her reincarnation had ended so quickly. Your Excellency, Buddha is merciful. At this moment, Ning Qingxin put her palms together and looked at the sky indifferently, her eyes pure and holy. Divine body of Buddha. Above the sky, a benevolent voice floated out. You and I are both Buddhas. Why are you protecting this person who destroyed the universe? You should know that if you have any connection with him, you will also be tainted by evil karma and fall into hell. Repent and be saved. Repent and be saved. Hearing this voice, Ning Qingxin's expression did not change at all. She said lightly, Senior, why do you want to capture Lin Ling? Lin Ling is the host body of the will of the world. For the universe and for the common people, I have to keep an eye on him. I hope that I can wash away the hostility and murderous intent in his heart with Buddhism. The voice in the sky carried with it a supreme holiness, majestically falling into everyone's ears. Lin Ling is the host body of the world's will, so he will be taken away by Senior, right? Ning Qingxin remained unmoved and said calmly, Yes, yes. The swastika in the sky bloomed with Buddhist light as it slowly spoke. Then, as Dipankara Buddha and the host body of the world's will, who will wash away the hostility and murderous intent in your heart. Ning Qingxin raised her head and said lightly. As soon as these words came out, the coast fell silent, and the gods were shocked. Many of them could guess that the one who did this was Dipankara Buddha behind the 3 great divine gates of White Mountain. However, they did not expect that Dipankara Buddha was also the host body of the world's will. This was news that shocked the gods. Another host body of the world's will has appeared. It's actually Dipankara Buddha. This must be fake. Impossible. Dipankara Buddha is the most benevolent Buddha. How can he be the host body of the world's will? Everyone discussed animatedly, unable to believe it. You all said that the host body of the world's will wants to destroy the world. Now, Dipankara Buddha is also the host body of the world's will. So will you go and kill him? Ning Qingxin looked at everyone again and said. Her soft voice was like a fierce slap that landed heavily on the gods' faces. Kill Dipankara Buddha? Will they dare? Senior, I don't know what you have to say. Ning Qingxin ignored everyone's expressions and looked at the sky again. However, the sky was silent, which was rare. Obviously, Dipankara Buddha didn't expect Ning Qingshin to know about his background. One had to know that the stone tablet that recorded him as the host body of the worlds will have long been destroyed by him. No one knew that he was the host body of the world's will. Even the great gods of Spirit Nation and the others who were closest to the stone tablet did not know. How did Ning Qingshin know? Unfortunately, Dipankara Buddha did not know that Lin Ling had already guessed it and even told many people about his thoughts and received their approval. This is a secret of heaven and earth. It's better that you don't know, lest you be tainted by the great calamity of the universe. Finally, the ancient voice floated out, still benevolent. Then, the light of Buddha continued to take Lin Ling away. Shameless. Ning Qingshin shouted in a low voice and silently chanted a Buddhist mantra to resist the light of Buddha in the sky. Shameless. Lei Gong and the others also cursed. Dipankara Buddha spoke so well and righteously. Now that his scam was exposed, he actually pretended to be stupid and did not give the gods any explanation. The most despicable thing was that after his identity was exposed, this ancient Buddha still spoke in a benevolent tone. The host body of the world's will is immortal. The only thing that can threaten them is the other host bodies of the world's will. I think Dipankara Buddha, your original intention is to devour Lin Ling. This way, you'll be even stronger. Lei Gong suddenly roared. His voice once again caused endless echoes. Many people whispered. It turned out that this was Dipankara Buddha's goal. They had never imagined that the ancient Buddha god would be so shameless. Everything was for him to become stronger. All living beings are ignorant. Above the sky, the ancient voice was still benevolent. However, a Buddha bowl flew over from afar, passing through the powerful nebulous primordial chi and buckling down towards Lin Ling. As soon as this Buddha bowl appeared, it seemed to block all of Lin Ling's Buddha power, causing him to be sucked into it and fly towards the sky. Shameless. Lin Ling. Seeing this scene, Lei Gong and the others roared. The Yellow Emperor also kept attacking the sky, but his power could not help Lin Ling at all. They all knew that once Lin Ling was taken away, he would be devoured and disappear from the world forever. On the other hand, Dipankara Buddha would become stronger and stronger. Dipankara Buddha was very smart. He knew that Lin Ling was an extremely powerful existence among the host bodies of the world's will. Therefore, he was the first to attack Lin Ling and did not pay attention to Lei Gong and the others. Unfortunately, Lei Gong and the other shouts were of no use. The Buddha's light gradually disappeared, and Lin Ling was completely taken away. The coast instantly fell silent. No one thought that this fierce battle of gods would end up like this. Lin Ling was not dead, but he was taken away by Dipankara Buddha. Lin Ling's sword must have attracted Dipankara Buddha's attention, so he took Lin Ling away. The Yellow Emperor frowned deeply. If it were not for Lin Ling's sword, Dipankara Buddha would have thought that Lin Ling was only on par with Lei Gong and the others. However, with that sword, Dipankara Buddha was clearly interested in Lin Ling's world will power. Now what do we do? Chapter 4894. The seashore was completely silent. Countless deities were still looking up at the sky. The battle was over. In the end, Lin Ling was taken away by the Dipankara Buddha. This was an ancient god, and a host of the world's will. The ancient giant god of the universe had attacked Lin Ling, and Lin Ling was completely defenseless. Let's go, someone suddenly said in a low voice. There's still a few worlds will hosts over there. Someone pointed at Lei Gong and the others. Worlds will hosts should be killed, but who can stop the Yellow Emperor now? At this time, the one who spoke was Emperor Yao. After a cold laugh, he turned and strode away. At the start, it seemed like he was fighting for the entire universe. But in truth, his real goal was just a personal vendetta. Now that Lin Ling was taken away, he was dead for sure. There was no need for him to risk his life. Although he also wanted to kill Lei Gong and the others, he would not be so foolish as to become cannon fodder. Besides, Lei Gong and the other worlds will host had not yet grown to the point where they could be feared. How am I supposed to kill them? Many wanted to kill Lei Gong and the others, but their strength was limited. They were helpless. Let's go. At this time, Emperor Yao also spoke. He entered the demon eye and turned into a terrifying demonic aura. Her thoughts were naturally the same as Emperor Yao's. They were not fools. And with the two strongest ancient emperors leaving, the others did not dare to continue fighting. They all left one after another. Lin Ling. Lon Yang looked at the sky, her eyes wet. During the trip to the Fog Sea, she and Lin Ling had resolved their past grievances and misunderstandings. She was looking forward to Lin Ling returning to the Yellow Emperor's territory and fighting alongside them. But she never expected that only she would return. Lin Ling had disappeared again. This caused her heart to be filled with grief and sorrow. Lin Ling, Yu, Lei Gong, and the others also had tears in their eyes. Ever since Lin Ling became a wanted criminal, they were constantly worried about Lin Ling. However, they finally saw Lin Ling, but it was only a fleeting glance. Senior Yellow Emperor, what will happen to Lord Lin Ling? Can we save Sir Lin Ling? Sheng Gui, he was the one who felt the most guilty. He believed that Lin Ling was captured because he was protecting him. Alas, the Yellow Emperor sighed and comforted him. Lin Ling, the heavens help the blessed. In the primal chaos realm, there will be people who will help him. However, this consolation sounded extremely weak. Not to mention Saint Guy and the others. Even the Yellow Emperor himself didn't believe it. Let's go. When he saw that Lei Gong and the others had no intention of leaving, he said sternly, if you want to help Lin Ling, you have to become stronger. After today, you will enter the Dao Pagoda. Dao Pagoda? Lei Gong and the others trembled and nodded fiercely. The Dao Pagoda was the core of the Dao realm. It was said that it was the cruelest place. Without a certain level of strength, one would die without a doubt. However, this cruel place also had its benefits, and that was the speed at which one could increase their strength. Therefore, the Dao Pagoda was also a double-edged sword. I'll go too. Nam Wufingyu and the others nodded as well. We'll go too. Yu and the others also looked at the most mysterious Dao Pagoda in the Dao realm. Now, the entire universe was their enemy. They couldn't let Lin Ling block everything. They had to become stronger. All right, before going to the Dao Pagoda, I will give you an opportunity to become stronger. The Yellow Emperor knew that anger and unwillingness were the motivation for people to become stronger. He was looking forward to how powerful these people would become because of Lin Ling. He left with the others, but his eyes were still looking at the sky. Lin Ling, Master will help you. I hope you can cross this great calamity. He knew that ever since Lin Ling entered the Dao realm, he had been fighting. If he wasn't being chased, he was being chased. However, this great calamity was one that Lin Ling had crossed. If he did, he would be able to see the sea and sky. At this moment, the Buddhist light in the grand mist energy was dazzling. It wrapped around Lin Ling and pierced through. What was terrifying was that the grand mist energy of the Dao Pagoda was incomparably grand. The Buddhist light flew at a terrifying speed, but it still couldn't cross the grand mist energy. On the contrary, Lin Ling slowly woke up in the Buddhist light. He then found himself wrapped in brass that was only 2 meters in size. It was extremely mysterious. Where's this? Lin Ling was shocked. After he fainted, he didn't know what happened afterwards. This is the Buddha bowl of the Dipankara Buddha. A voice suddenly sounded in Lin Ling's ears, startling Lin Ling. Then, he said in ecstasy, Senior Guang Chengzi, you brats are crazy enough. The war of the gods started because of you. Now that your identity has been exposed, you will have to face the gods of several eras. Guang Chengzi's helpless voice sounded. If my disciple, the Yellow Emperor, hadn't informed me, I wouldn't have known that you had caused such a great war. Then how am I now? Lin Ling couldn't help but ask anxiously. You have been targeted by the Dipankara Buddha. He probably already knows that you have devoured a world will host body. so he wants to devour you," Guang Chengzi said. "Dipankara Buddha?" Lin Ling sucked in a breath of cold air. How did this matter involve a heavyweight of the chaos realm? "Don't worry. Although the Dipankara Buddha is very powerful, I will do my best to protect you and let you safely return to the Tao realm," Guang Chengzi continued. "However, I am imprisoned in the square prison. When the time comes, I will need you to release me. Moreover, the Dipankara Buddha is a giant god of the universe at the same level as me. Hundreds of millions of years ago, I was fortunate enough to meet him once. Now that so many years have passed, I'm not too sure about his strength. I know, all in all, this trip to the Chaos Realm will be dangerous." Hearing this, Lin Ling's expression turned solemn. He was going to the Chaos Realm? The Chaos Realm was the oldest place in the entire universe where the most giant gods of the universe gathered. With his strength, he would most likely die if he entered. "Guang Chengzi, why don't we escape now? Maybe we will have a chance to return to the Tao realm," Lin Ling quickly suggested. "No, we are now at the border between the Tao realm and the Chaos realm. This place is full of nebulous aura. Even I can't easily appear here. This matter can only be resolved in the Chaos realm," Guang Chengzi said helplessly. Lin Ling could only nod. He sat cross-legged and continued to recover. At the same time, he also thought of the matter of killing true God Penghua. He remembered that he had activated a powerful sword and killed 2 giant gods of the universe. The power of faith. Lin Ling was shocked. He hurriedly investigated and found that in the deepest part of his soul, the dissipated power had recovered again. However, no matter how he activated it, this power was uncontrollable. The only change was that Lin Ling sensed that this power of the worlds was stronger than before. This power of faith is really difficult to deal with. Lin Ling shook his head helplessly. After investigating for a long time, he finally chose to give up. Chapter 4895. Looking around, he was at the top of the mountain. The surroundings of the top of the mountain were mottled. There are no trees or living beings. There are only mountains, endless, barren mountains. Furthermore, looking along the horizon, the entire land was like an abandoned land. There were no living beings to be seen. This is the Chaos Realm? Lin Ling sucked in a breath of cold air. The primal Chaos Realm, in his imagination, was a paradise with birds chirping and flowers blooming. However, the scene in front of him was completely different from his imagination. The place where the gods returned was actually a barren world. The Chaos Realm is too ancient. It has experienced countless eras. Now, this universe has reached its end. A voice sounded in Lin Ling's ears. When Lin Ling raised his head, he saw a middle-aged man in monk robes looking at Lin Ling with his palms pressed together. This man's Buddhist light shone brightly. Gods and demons could not invade him. He was extremely powerful. Lin Ling had a feeling that even if he went all out and used all of his trump cards, he would still be no match for this man. "Patron, please follow me," the man said to Lin Ling kindly. "Who are you?" Lin Ling asked. "I'm the Dragon King of Jinghai, a disciple of the Dipankara Buddha's tomb." The man was incomparably benevolent and said, "The Buddha wishes to see you. Patron, please follow me." Lin Ling nodded and followed the man. Now that he had landed in this place, it was impossible for him to refuse. As he walked along the top of the mountain, Lin Ling kept looking around. He discovered that at the foot of the mountain, Buddhist light shone brightly. The mountain range was carved with a large number of huge stone Buddhas. They had experienced tens of millions of years and were ancient. Under those stone sculptures, countless Buddhist cultivators sat cross-legged and silently chanted Buddhist scriptures. On their bodies, a mysterious power bloomed faintly, giving off a gentle and comfortable feeling. However, if they were used in battle, they would definitely be incomparably valiant. Although the Buddhist power was gentle, it gave Lin Ling a very uncomfortable feeling. Not long after, a wooden house appeared in front of him. The wooden house was on the top of the mountain and was illuminated by the sun all year round, looking somewhat dilapidated. From time to time, Buddhist scriptures that Lin Ling could not understand, came out of the wooden house. "Benefactor, we're here." The well-seen monarch bowed slightly to Lin Ling, smiled, then turned around and left. Lin Ling stood outside the wooden house and sighed in his heart. He didn't expect that he would finally meet this legendary, almighty figure. Lin Ling was no stranger to Dipankara Buddha. He knew that this person was called Dingguang Buddha, who was also the Buddha of the past. He was as famous as Gautama Buddha. There were even rumors that these three Buddhas were one and could not be separated from each other. It was legal equality. No one was superior to the other. His name was Anyatarasamyak Subhuti. But now, such an ancient and famous Buddha god wanted to see Lin Ling. No matter how knowledgeable Lin Ling was, it was inevitable that his heart would fluctuate. This was also the second powerful ancient god that Lin Ling had seen after Patriarch Bodhi. The sunlight here is getting longer and longer. There are only 2 hours of night every day. Suddenly, a benevolent voice came from the wooden house. This also made Lin Ling look up at the sun in the distance. He realized that although the spiritual energy here was rich, everything gave him a feeling of age, like an old man on the verge of death. Following that, Lin Ling pushed open the door and entered. The wooden house wasn't big, but it was very clean. A thin old man sat cross-legged. He was wearing a wooden kasaya and Buddha beads. Everything about him looked very ordinary. If Lin Ling did not know that this person was the omnipotent Dipankara Buddha god, he would definitely think that he was an ordinary Buddhist cultivator. As for the old man, he sat on a mat and gently knocked on a wooden fish. He closed his eyes and silently chanted Buddhist scriptures. To others, these Buddhist scriptures were the key to crossing the sea of suffering. But to Lin Ling, they were unpleasant and made him extremely uncomfortable. "Benefactor Lin Ling, I've heard a lot about you." At that moment, the old man opened his eyes and smiled at Lin Ling. His smile was very benevolent. "Greetings, Senior Dipankara." Lin Ling bowed slightly. "I didn't expect Benefactor Lin Ling to be so respectful of your master. But why do you want to destroy the world?" The old man said with a smile and pointed to the ground, indicating for Lin Ling to sit down. Lin Ling nodded and sat down cross-legged. During this process, he sensed a mysterious force probing his entire body. This also made his entire body tense up, as though he was afraid that he would be seen through. Lin Ling carried many divine abilities and ultimate arts, hiding ancient secrets. Among them were the Pangu Strike, the 3 extremes of the universe, the world will host, and the square prison. Among them, the most important was none other than the Chaos Divine Formula. He did not want the Chaos Divine Formula to be seen through. This was because Lin Ling had always felt that the Chaos Divine Formula was the key to him, Lin Ling, to recover his past. Of course, the square prison could not be seen through. This was Lin Ling's capital to escape. Fortunately, the feeling of being spied on quickly disappeared. Dipankara Buddha God did not seem to see anything. "Benefactor Lin Ling, who are you?" the old man suddenly asked. "I'm Lin Ling," Lin Ling said with a smile. No. Everything in the universe has a root, but Benefactor Lin Ling has no root. It's as though you were born out of thin air, the old man said with a smile. Lin Ling's expression did not change, but his heart skipped a beat. He knew that Dipankara Buddha God had indeed been probing him before, but he did not find what he wanted to know. Facing such an ancient Buddha God, Lin Ling felt pressure all the time. It was no less than an earth-shattering battle between gods. "Senior Buddha God, I also have a mother, relatives, and friends. I can't be born out of thin air," Lin Ling replied with a faint smile. The old man nodded. "I just said that Benefactor Lin Ling respects your master, but now it seems that's not the case." Dipankara Buddha God meant that Lin Ling was hiding something from him. This was disrespectful. "Although I respect my master, it's only on the surface. Deep down, I don't respect my master that much." "Oh, Benefactor Lin Ling, you're being unkind." "How am I being unkind? I have no master by my side, and I have no Tao to seek. How can I respect my master?" Hearing Lin Ling's words, Dipankara Buddha, God, fell silent. He had been paying attention to Lin Ling for a long time, but because the Chaos Realm was far away from the Tao Realm, he could only roughly comprehend it. He did not know what Lin Ling had experienced all these years and what secrets he was hiding. That was why he asked. However, through asking, he knew that Lin Ling was different from ordinary people. He seemed to respect his master, but that was only on the surface. A master would guide Lin Ling, but Lin Ling walked his own path and did not follow his master's old path. Tao. Every god had their own Tao, but generally speaking, they all pursued the Tao of their predecessors. For example, Buddhism. Countless Buddhist cultivators pursued the Buddhist Tao, which was the path of their predecessors. However, Lin Ling did not. He seemed to have his own Tao, which was why Lin Ling said that there was no Tao to seek. In their first contact, Dipankara Buddha God realized that Lin Ling was extremely difficult to deal with. He hid very well and carried the secrets of the universe, making it difficult for others to see through him. Chapter 4896. Dipankara Buddha, you are also a host body of the world will. I wonder who will wash away your hostility and murderous aura. Lin Ling said with a smile. The people of the universe. Dipankara Buddha's eyes looked into the distance, as if saying that he could be a demon for the people of the universe. But the people of the universe could punish him. I guess only Senior knows if the people of the universe can wash away your hostility and murderous aura. Lin Ling naturally did not believe Dipankara Buddha's words. At the critical moment, Dipankara Buddha would definitely not commit suicide. I can tell you my origin. Lin Ling said again, I'm the oldest creation god of the universe. I am one with the host body of the final world will. He is the destruction of the world, and I am the creation of the world. As soon as he said that, Dipankara Buddha's eyes flashed. If what Lin Ling said was true, then Lin Ling was the creator of all gods. He could not help but look at Lin Ling and found that Lin Ling's smile was both real and fake. If it were other gods, Dipankara Buddha would be able to see through them at a glance. That was because he was the Buddha of the past. However, he could not see through Lin Ling. Therefore, it was difficult to evaluate whether Lin Ling's words were true or false. You said that you are one with the final world will. Do you have any proof? Dipankara Buddha asked. There is no proof. I feel that I have the power of the world will. Perhaps that is the case. Lin Ling replied. Dipankara Buddha fell into deep thought again. At first, he almost believed Lin Ling's words. However, Lin Ling's next sentence reminded him that Lin Ling was the host body of the world will. Since he was the host body of the world will, how could he be a creator? Your Excellency Lin Ling, whether you are the creator or not, I want you to convert to Buddhism for the sake of the people of the universe. Dipankara Buddha knew that he would not be able to get anything out of him if he continued to ask. He would only know everything if he refined Lin Ling. Dipankara Buddha, nice move. Lin Ling was not surprised by this scene. Dipankara Buddha definitely did not capture him to take care of Lin Ling. Benefactor Lin Ling, I apologize for offending you. If you violate the harmony of heaven, I, Dipankara Buddha, will bear the responsibility. Dipankara Buddha began to close his eyes and chanted Buddhist mantras. A gentle light enveloped Lin Ling, sending him into the 18th level of hell. Rumble. The place where Lin Ling was sitting cross-legged split open, and Lin Ling fell downwards. Throughout the entire process, Lin Ling saw endless Buddhist light all over the place. He felt as if he had entered Buddha's body. Large amounts of Buddhist scriptures materialized and gradually appeared, hovering and lingering about. At the same time, in the surrounding mountains, all the Buddhists sat down cross-legged and silently recited the rebirth scripture. Endless Buddhist power enveloped the mountain, causing the mountain to shine with golden light in all directions. If one looked at it from afar, they would discover that this vast and magnificent mountain was actually a huge stone Buddha. At this moment, the ancient and simple stone Buddha was radiating colorful Buddha light. It was so beautiful that the giant gods of the universe in the vicinity were all blinking their eyes. They couldn't understand why the three godly gates of White Mountain, which had been quiet for tens of millions of years, would make such a big fuss today, resulting in a scene of tens of thousands of Buddhas worshipping. Rumble. At this moment, the Buddhist light suppressed Lin Ling in the body of the Buddha, causing Lin Ling's expression to change drastically. What was terrifying was that he could not feel any pain, but he could feel that he was melting. It was as if everything in his body was about to turn into the most ancient thing. Bald donkey. Even though Lin Ling had already sensed this scene, he still could not help but curse. Of course, he did not lose his mind because he had also hidden his trump card. Senior Guang Chengzi, how is it? Lin Ling asked in a low voice. Now is not the time yet. Guang Chengzi's voice was somewhat anxious. If I help you now, Dipankara Buddha will have to wait for him to enter a meditative state before he can catch you again. At that time, even if you escape, he will need 3 breaths of time to wake up. These 3 breaths of time will be the time you need to save your life. However, after escaping from here, how to leave is also a huge problem. Have you found a way out? Hearing this, Lin Ling pondered and hurriedly said, I know that there is a path in the void of 9 states that leads to the chaotic realm. I just need to find that path. The path of domination in the void of 9 states led to the chaotic realm. Back then, little Kunlun and even the giant ghost had left from there. Right, little Kunlun and the giant ghost. Lin Ling suddenly thought of something and hurriedly went to inform them. However, the chaotic realm was too vast. In addition, Lin Ling was now in the body of the Buddha, so he did not know if he could inform little Kunlun and the others through voice transmission. At the same time, the critical moment had arrived. Lin Ling discovered that his entire body was beginning to turn illusory. His physical body and divine essence were showing signs of dissipating. The terrifying thing was that Lin Ling could not feel a trace of pain. He could only watch as he dissipated and was then swallowed by the Buddha. When he turned into nothingness, all his secrets would inevitably be revealed. The chaos divine formula, the square prison, the power of the world's will, and everything else, including Lin Ling's memories, origins, and so on. At that time, Dipankara Buddha would obtain everything of Lin Ling. Not only would he become stronger, but he would also become the god of creation. Hold on. Lin Ling kept shouting, hoping to hold on for longer and let Dipankara Buddha enter a meditative state. Time passed quietly. In the end, Lin Ling sensed that he had arrived at the bottom of the mountain. Around him, countless Buddhist chants constantly attacked him like flames, burning Lin Ling. This caused Lin Ling's body to turn into powder that lingered in the Buddhist chants. At the same time, in the wooden house, Dipankara Buddha's eyes lit up. When Lin Ling dissipated, he vaguely comprehended something. This also increased the speed of his refinement by a notch. Suddenly, he entered a meditative state. It was as if he was in the vast starry sky and saw ancient secrets. Each and every one of these secrets could shake the universe. It would take some time to unearth them and completely understand them. And Dipankara Buddha spent a lot of energy and vaguely understood the first secret, the square prison. One of the 4 oldest prisons in the universe is actually on him. Dipankara Buddha was shocked and continued to investigate. Then, he discovered a power even more mysterious than the power of the world's will. However, when he wanted to completely understand it, suddenly, a powerful force erupted from the Buddha's body. Lin Ling go. At this moment, Guang Chengzi made his move. He used a powerful method to blast away the surrounding Buddhist power. Eat Old Sun's staff. At the same time, a giant staff appeared and smashed forward. The entire huge Buddha was smashed into a path of life and death. From the outside, one could see a huge hole in the Buddha's stomach. Chapter 4897. Even the great sage, heaven's equal, has been summoned. It's the square prison. Dipankara Buddha was slightly angered. His soul left his body and appeared in the Buddha's body, transforming into a huge Buddha hand that grabbed at Lin Ling. Only then did he recall that Lin Ling had the square prison and could summon the ancient mighty god. Unfortunately, he realized it a little too late. Previously, he was focused on investigating Yi Han's deepest secret, causing him to miss this point. Lin Ling, leave quickly. I'll stop him. Guang Chengzi appeared like a stream of light in the huge Buddha's body. After chanting, the cyclic sky seal descended from the sky and slowly floated towards the huge Buddha hand. The brick-sized cyclic sky seal did not seem to have any power, but when it approached the Buddha hand emitted an anxious voice. Not good. Endless Buddhist light flowed as the Buddha hand exploded, revealing Dipankara Buddha's soul. Clang! At the same time, the cyclic sky seal smashed down, aiming for the head. Even with Dipankara Buddha's strength, he felt dizzy from the impact. Guang Chengzi, Dipankara Buddha bellowed. With a thought, the sky shattered as a Buddhist light shot down at an extremely fast speed. After this Buddhist light enveloped Dipankara Buddha, his body rapidly recovered. He's awake. Guang Chengzi knew that Dipankara Buddha was beginning to recover. He could not help but turn to look at Lin Ling and realize that Lin Ling was getting closer and closer to the exit. However, the Buddha was also extremely powerful. A large number of Buddhist chants floated over and were repairing the exit. Cyclic Sky Seal. However, Guang Chengzi ignored Lin Ling. The cyclic sky seal smashed at Dipankara Buddha again, causing the latter's body to become unstable. Guang Chengzi, I'll remember this grudge. This karma will come to an end, Dipankara Buddha said in a low voice. Bald donkey, you'd better not remember it for too long, because I'm afraid you'll fall in love with me if you remember it for too long, Guang Chengzi said with a smile. His figure floated back as he activated the cyclic sky seal and chased after Lin Ling. Of course, he was also shocked by Dipankara Buddha God's strength. He had smashed his head so many times, but he was still alive. And this was when Dipankara Buddha had just left his meditative state. If he was at his peak, he would probably be even more terrifying. Of course, Master Guang Chengzi was in the four-directional prison, and only one of his clones had come out. He wasn't using his full strength. Take this. The one leading the way for Lin Ling was the avatar of the great sage, Heaven's Equal. With a sweep of his staff, the Buddhist light in the hole flickered incessantly. Everyone, please do your best. At this moment, outside the huge Buddha, tens of thousands of gods and Buddhas sat and chanted Buddhist sutras. All of them were attacking the huge Buddha. In the endless mountains, stone Buddhas of various sizes were also emitting a gentle Buddhist light. This Buddhist light enveloped the huge Buddhas, causing the huge stone Buddhas to be as dazzling as golden Buddhas. What powerful Buddhist energy! However, Old Sun was invincible in the universe back then. Do you think you can stop Old Sun? Bro, just charge. A gigantic ape appeared. It held a gigantic staff in its hand and continuously opened up a path in a frenzy. The staff smashed toward the Buddhist light, dazzling and dazzling. Rumble. The entire huge Buddha was on the verge of collapse. Victorious, fighting Buddha, why are you helping an outsider? You are a Buddha god. Behind him, Dipankara Buddha was clearly anxious. Sorry, this avatar of mine isn't the victorious fighting Buddha, but the great sage, Heaven's Equal. The gigantic ape stabbed out with his staff and landed on the huge Buddha's stomach, stirring up the hole that was constantly recovering. Damn you, macaque. Dipankara Buddha couldn't help but curse. Brother, hurry. The ape suddenly shrank to the size of an ordinary person and then rushed out of the big hole. Behind him, Lin Ling hurriedly followed and shouted at Master Guang Chengzi, Senior, hurry. However, after rushing out, Lin Ling couldn't help but gasp. There were countless gods and Buddhas sitting in the sky and on the ground, looking at him majestically. The strength of these gods and Buddhas was terrifying. With Lin Ling's current strength, let alone fighting, he couldn't even win against one of them. Hi, you're all bald donkeys. However, In front of Lin Ling, the great sage, heaven's equal, was wearing purplish gold armor and holding a huge staff. He laughed loudly as he looked at the gods and Buddhas. Looking at his majestic appearance, it was as though he had returned to the time when he wreaked havoc in the heavenly palace. Lin Ling couldn't help but laugh. His monkey brother was wild. Victorious fighting Buddha, you've already converted to Buddhism. Why are you causing trouble here? A dignified Buddha said coldly. I have countless avatars. The victorious fighting Buddha you speak of isn't here. I'm the great sage, heaven's equal. The great sage, heaven's equal, laughed. Must you save this puny god? Another short and fat Buddha said. Eat my staff. The Buddhas thought that the great sage, heaven's equal, would reply, but who knew that the monkey was so wild that he couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense and directly smash them with his huge staff. Beat him until he turns the world upside down, ha. The great sage, heaven's equal, was like a wild monkey that had charged out of the Five Fingers Mountain. He was extremely arrogant as he swung his staff, not giving anyone face. The gods and Buddhas in the sky were instantly disrupted and were fuming with anger. Brother Monkey, awesome. Lin Ling followed behind the great sage, heaven's equal. He was excited to see the great sage, heaven's equal, beat up whoever he saw. In his memories, the great sage, heaven's equal, was at his strongest when he wreaked havoc in the heavenly palace. At that time, all the gods and Buddhas in the sky were fearless. After all, the great sage, heaven's equal, was unrestrained and unrestrained. He fought with his full strength. Later on, when he went on the path of seeking Buddhism, he lost some of his wild nature due to the additional burden and fear. His strength was greatly reduced. However, after becoming a Buddha, Brother Monkey was very smart. He split himself into avatars. One was seeking Buddhism, one was the great sage, heaven's equal, and one was the stone monkey. As such, they minded their own business. Stupid monkey, you! A Buddha was so angry that his body trembled. However, he was met with a staff strike. Dong! This Buddha god was also incomparably powerful, but after being struck by the staff, he sucked in a breath of cold air and his bald head caved in. Ha ha ha! The great sage, heaven's equal, laughed heartily. He held the Rui Jingu Bang with both hands and spun it around like a fiery wheel. Strong winds blew, and the entire world seemed to be flipped over. Amazing. The power of the gods is terrifying. Moreover, the strength of his physical body has reached an unimaginably terrifying level. Most importantly, there's a powerful mystique in Brother Monkey's Rui Jingu Bang. Lin Ling gasped. Seeing the gods and Buddhas tumbling around in the sky, he couldn't help but laugh loudly. Bang, bang, bang. Countless stone Buddhas tumbled around in the land of the great Buddhas like kites. The scene was spectacular. Monkey, stop playing. Dipankara Buddha has caught up. However, at this time, Guangqingzi appeared behind Lin Ling and said anxiously, All right, old brother, I'll take you away. Only then did the great sage, heaven's equal, put away his staff. He pulled out a hair and blew. A mysterious cloud appeared. Lin Ling took a closer look. His eyes twitched. Wasn't this the primordial aura? Could this be the Somersault Cloud? Using the primordial aura to make the Somersault Cloud? Chapter 4898. Let's go. The great sage, heaven's equal, roared. His terrifying speed was 10 billion miles per hour. In an instant, the three of them disappeared into the horizon. Umitba, evildoers, where do you think you're going? At this moment, Dipankara Buddha appeared. He threw out a Buddha bowl, stepped on it, and chased after them. Behind him, the gods and Buddhas were also chasing after Lin Ling and the rest. Of course, the most terrifying was still Dipankara Buddha. Although his Buddha bowl was not as good as the Somersault Cloud, it had the ability to traverse realms and teleport, appearing around Lin Ling time and time again. However, although the Somersault Cloud did not have such an ability, it was fast and agile. Every time Dipankara Buddha appeared, the great sage, heaven's equal, would turn and flee, sometimes to the left, sometimes to the right, making it difficult for Dipankara Buddha to catch him. Evildoers. Dipankara Buddha was also infuriated. Ha ha ha, bald donkey, come and catch me. The great sage, heaven's equal, was clearly wary of Dipankara Buddha and did not dare to fight him head-on. However, when it came to escaping, he was confident that he would not lose to anyone. Lin Ling, Square Prison has a time limit. We can't be out for too long. If we can't shake them off in this period of time, it's all up to you. Guangxingzi was not as wild as the great sage, heaven's equal. He said solemnly. Lin Ling nodded. Guangxingzi and the rest could come out because Lin Ling had given them a big break. However, this kind of break had a time limit. At this thought, Lin Ling quickly patted Monkey Bro to remind him. The great sage, heaven's equal, reacted immediately and grinned, indicating that he understood. However, at this moment, there was a mysterious force circulating in the sky. Time was speeding up. Oh no, that Dipankara Buddha is using his mystique to speed up time. Looks like he's very familiar with Square Prison. Time is speeding up. We have to return to Square Prison. The great sage, heaven's equal, and Guangxingzi's expressions changed slightly, while Lin Ling was even more anxious. It doesn't matter. Watch what I old son can do. At this moment, the great sage, heaven's equal, plucked a strand of hair and blew. Countless great sages appeared and flew in all directions. These clones were difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake. Dipankara Buddha was momentarily dazzled. Although he had the means to see through the real and fake avatars, he needed some time. In a battle between powerful gods, even an instant was enough to change the outcome of the battle. Dreamlike mirage, Dipankara Buddha growled. His eyes became bright like two dazzling suns. Beams of light shot out from his eyes and swept forward. Wherever they passed, all the avatars of the great sage, heaven's equal, were incinerated. However, by the time he saw through everything, the real great sage, heaven's equal, had already disappeared. Umipa, Dipankara Buddha whispered, but his expression was extremely gloomy. He had already determined that Lin Ling was a divergent of the universe and possessed endless secrets. Previously, he was about to obtain the secrets of the universe, but at the critical moment, Lin Ling had escaped. This child's origin is probably even more formidable than the world will host body. I must find him. Dipankara Buddha, God, muttered to himself. Behind him, endless Buddhist light shot into the distance, frantically searching for Lin Ling in the Chaos Realm. Moreover, the major sects in the Chaos Realm had also received the news to find a minor god. At this moment, on the other side, Lin Ling was riding on the primordial cloud, rushing forward at a crazy speed. The Chaos Realm is so big. Lin Ling was shocked. With his current speed, in the void of the 9 states, he could travel through the entire void of the 9 states in less than 2 hours. In the Tao Realm, it would probably take a day, but in the Chaos Realm, it seemed like he was still in the territory of the 3 major sects of White Mountain. Lin Ling, I feel that the Square Prison is summoning me. I'll go first. At this moment, Guangxingzi said to Lin Ling. Then, he bowed slightly and disappeared into Lin Ling's body. This guy's too disloyal. The great sage, heaven's equal, said disdainfully. Then, he said to Lin Ling, Brother, don't worry. I will bring you out safely. But where are we going? The Chaos Realm is probably the territory of Dipankara Buddha God. If this goes on, he will find us sooner or later. Lin Ling said with a frown. If only we could find my master. The great sage, heaven's equal, said with a sigh. Don't you have a doppelganger with Patriarch Bodhi? You can't find him? Lin Ling was surprised. Sigh. My master has always liked to live in seclusion. If he doesn't want to meet someone, that person will never find him. So my doppelganger is there, but he doesn't know where he is. The great sage, heaven's equal, shook his head. Without the help of the powerful, giant gods of the universe, we are no match for Dipankara Buddha God. Lin Ling felt that it was even more troublesome. However, at this moment, a voice transmission came. It was the giant ghost. Lin Ling, where are you? The giant ghost's voice was anxious. Apparently, he had guessed Lin Ling's current situation. Lin Ling did not know where he was, so he could only use the voice transmission Jade Talisman to roughly tell him the direction. Come to the east, I will bring you out. The giant ghost immediately instructed. Brother Monkey, I know how to leave the Chaos Realm. Let's go to the east. Lin Ling said hurriedly. It's easy now that you know the way out. The great sage, Heaven's equal, also smiled happily and shot toward the east with Lin Ling. South. After walking for 2 hours, the giant ghost's voice came again. Northwest. They went in another direction, and the giant ghost pointed again. After a long time, numerous mountains of stalagmites that towered into the clouds appeared ahead. These mountains were incomparably huge, and they were like divine mountains. Moreover, there were no plants in the surroundings, and the foot of the mountains was covered in hazy mist, causing one to be unable to see everything clearly. However, Lin Ling could vaguely hear terrifying screams coming from the foot of the mountains. Perhaps the foot of these stalagmite mountains was a forbidden area. An old man stood on top of one of the stalagmite mountains. When he saw Lin Ling, he couldn't help but be delighted. 8 gods. The great sage, Heaven's equal, recognized the old man and couldn't help but be shocked. He's also a giant ghost, Lin Ling said with a smile. Then he flew down the mountain with the great sage, Heaven's equal. Lin Ling, are you all right? The giant ghost came over. He was now wearing a loose white robe. His hair was white, and his beard was elegant. He looked like a divine being who had attained the Tao. Looking at him, he was indeed more like the 8 gods. However, in Lin Ling's eyes, this elegant divine being was a ferocious giant ghost. I'm fine, but do you know how to leave this place? Now, Dipankar Buddha is looking for me. We don't have much time left. Lin Ling said, Follow me. The old man led Lin Ling and the others forward. A moment later, they saw a huge vortex between 2 mountains. That's the path of domination. It leads to the void of the 9 states. The old man pointed ahead and said. Lin Ling was delighted. He hurriedly looked at the old man and said, Giant ghost, aren't you going back with me? The old man smiled and shook his head. Lin Ling, my matter in the Chaos Realm hasn't been resolved. After I'm done, I'll definitely look for you. By the way, I've also seen little Kunlun. That child is very powerful now. Hearing this, Lin Ling couldn't help but feel happy for little Kunlun. However, time waited for no one. He hurriedly said, Then I'll go back first. Chapter 4899. Good. Lin Ling and the giant ghost had known each other for many years, so he was not pretentious. Aha, brother, it's time for me to go back. Have a safe journey. Good. Seeing that Lin Ling was safe, the great sage, Heaven's equal, also withdrew his Hongmeng cloud. After bidding farewell to Lin Ling, he disappeared into Lin Ling's body. Giant ghost, see you in the future. Good. Lin Ling knew that he could not stay here for long. After bidding farewell to the old man, he immediately shot into the huge whirlpool in front of him. Lin Ling, have a safe journey. Good. The old man looked at the departing Lin Ling with reluctance in his eyes. Unfortunately, he had unfinished business in the chaotic realm, so he could only watch as Lin Ling left. The huge whirlpool was tumbling, and Lin Ling's figure gradually disappeared as if he had merged into the water. However, after entering the whirlpool, Lin Ling did not leave immediately. Instead, he was blocked by a layer of thin film. I heard that the higher one's realm is, the more difficult it is to leave the path of domination. Lin Ling felt that there was a force pushing him, preventing him from entering, and even trying to push him out of the huge whirlpool. He finally knew why the Dipankar Buddha and the other giant gods of the universe did not go to the void of Jiuzhou. It was because it was difficult to enter. Although Lin Ling was powerful, he was only an early-stage high god. If he reached the mid-stage or late-stage high god level, it would be even more difficult. Fortunately, although it was difficult to enter, there was still hope for him to enter if he spent some time. Lin Ling sensed that he had quietly merged into the light film. Suddenly, Lin Ling's eyes narrowed, and he shouted into the distance, "Giant ghost, hurry up and leave." The giant ghost was watching Lin Ling leave. When he heard Lin Ling shout, he could not help but look into the distance and immediately realized that something was wrong. There was a large amount of Buddhist light in the distance. The Dipankara Buddha had found him. "Lin Ling," the giant ghost shouted worriedly. "Let's go, I'm fine here. When they arrive, I can leave." Lin Ling said hurriedly. When the giant ghost heard this, he suddenly gritted his teeth and looked at Lin Ling again reluctantly before flying into the distance and gradually disappeared. After the time it took for 3 incense sticks to burn, a large amount of Buddhist light appeared in the vicinity. Suddenly, an anxious shout was heard. "Lin Ling, over there!" A god had found Lin Ling. Then a large number of Buddha gods appeared, and looked Buddha and Dipankara Buddha Pankara Buddha also appeared. He put his palms together and chanted, "Umitba, evil creature, evil creature." He could see that Lin Ling had already entered the path of the Sovereign Lord. It would be very, very difficult for them to catch up. "Sorry, bald donkey, but I'm leaving," he said. God, 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 Buddha, God, 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 Buddha, God, God, Lin Ling, the sea of bitterness is boundless. Turn back and be saved. Dipankara Buddha was neither happy nor sad as he looked at Lin Ling indifferently. "I like to walk the same path to the end. You're flattering me," Lin Ling said with a smile. He knew that although Dipankara Buddha looked kind, he was actually very hypocritical. "Umitba, benefactor, why do you have to do this?" Dipankara Buddha was in a good mood and was not angered by Lin Ling's words. "It's none of your business. I like to do things my own way." Lin Ling said again, "What a pity. You almost got my world power, but you were just a little bit short. Moreover, apart from the world power, I actually have many secrets, but you were just a little bit short. Sai, what a pity." Lin Ling's voice kept drifting over. Even though Dipankara Buddha had a good temperament, his face could not help but turn gloomy. He could ignore Lin Ling's mockery and gloating. But when he thought of the universe secrets that Lin Ling was hiding and how he had almost gotten them, he felt uncomfortable. No matter how good his temperament was, he could not bear it, because he had a feeling that those universe secrets could allow him to dominate the entire era. "Lin Ling, who are you?" Dipankara Buddha said in a low voice while suppressing his anger. "Do you want to know?" Lin Ling pursed his lips and continued to mock. "I won't tell you." Dipankara Buddha fell silent. He closed his eyes slightly, as if he was silently chanting the meditation Buddhist mantra. However, Lin Ling continued, "Monk, don't think that I don't know that you're using the world power to forcibly bring me out. Unfortunately, it's a little too late. You might have been able to do it 15 minutes earlier. Now, I'm going to leave. Also, let me remind you, although your world power is poodoo, I also have the world power, and it has similar special effects as yours. Therefore, I can sense that you're secretly attacking, despicable monk." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Ling gradually disappeared from the path of Dominator. Dipankara Buddha finally opened his eyes. His eyes were cold. Previously, he had indeed used the world power, but he did not expect Lin Ling to escape. Reporting to the gods and Buddhas in the sky, "No matter what, you must bring Lin Ling back." Dipankara Buddha disappeared on the spot, leaving behind a cold sentence. The surrounding gods and Buddhas trembled. Dipankara Buddha had always given people the feeling that he was very kind. This was the first time they had heard him speak in a cold voice. This showed how angry Dipankara Buddha was. At that moment, on the path of Dominator, Lin Ling seemed to have entered a vortex and was sucked into it, as if he had traveled through time. The surroundings were very small, only allowing 2 people to walk side by side. It was like a pitch black hole, but with the passage of time, it gradually became wider. After an unknown period of time, Lin Ling finally arrived at the path of Dominator. Looking around, the surroundings were like a starry sky. Islands were floating around slowly. On those islands, specks of light flickered. Those were treasures. To the 9 states void, The path of Dominator contained countless treasures. Unfortunately, there were very few people in the Nine States Void who could walk here. The only famous one was Taoist master of many treasures. These treasures are useful to martial artists, but not to gods. Lin Ling ignored those treasures and turned into a stream of light, shooting forward. After a long time, he returned to the Nine States Void again. Standing in the void, he looked at the vast universe. He had now lived through several eras and witnessed the secrets of the universe. Therefore, when he saw the Nine States Void, he felt that the universe was incomparably small. That's the North Territory, my hometown. Suddenly, Lin Ling looked in a certain direction and saw the rainforest's sacred land where he had grown up in the past. He suddenly sighed in his heart. When he had been learning martial arts, he had not expected to become so strong one day, surpassing the universe and even fighting against the most ancient gods of the universe. In the past, he had experienced countless life and death situations. If he had not stepped on a few of them, there would probably be no Lin Ling today. Let's go back. Chapter 4900. A moment later, Lin Ling appeared in the Tao Pagoda again. In the distance, the sea was rolling, and the coastline was now a mess with many large holes. This was the place where Lin Ling had been taken away. However, compared to the bustling deity's base, it was now a desolate place. After all, after the War of the Gods, this place was no longer suitable for a port. So no gods came here. I'm back. Lin Ling took out a voice transmission talisman and sent a message. Brother Ling. There was no doubt that a shocked voice came from the other side. Lin Ling, you're back. Lei Gong's voice also came. Heavens, didn't you go to the primal chaos realm? Next, the voices of the Yellow Emperor and the others floated over one after another. Someone help me come back. Lin Ling replied with a smile. He was very happy. Although he had killed people like flies and was being suppressed by the gods, he found that there were still many people who cared about him. These people might be the motivation for him to become stronger. While Lin Ling was deep in thought, the Yellow Emperor's voice floated over again. Then come back quickly. I can't go back now. There are some things that I must do. Lin Ling pondered for a moment, then looked into the distance and said, his eyes full of cold light. Lin Ling, what do you mean? The voice from the voice transmission talisman sounded worried. That day, if not for Emperor Ziwei, I wouldn't have encountered such danger. True God Peng Hua and the others are dead, but Emperor Ziwei is still alive, so he must die. It's because of him that my identity as Lin Ling and Lei Gong were exposed, causing the gods to want to suppress us. This is even more reason for me to kill him. Lin Ling said word by word. That day, if not for Emperor Ziwei informing Emperor Yao and the others, how could there be danger? With Lin Ling's temperament, of course he would seek revenge. Lin Ling, let the matter of 10 years ago be in the past. Now, find a safe place to cultivate, and then enter the Tao Pagoda. The Yellow Emperor advised. 10 years? I've only been in the Chaos Realm for a few days, but 10 years have passed? Lin Ling was astonished and incredulous before a smile appeared on his face. Don't worry, I'm confident in my ability to kill Emperor Ziwei. All right, then you have to come back after killing Emperor Ziwei. Don't go anywhere else. Seeing that Lin Ling had made up his mind, the Yellow Emperor stopped trying to persuade him. Lin Ling nodded. After chatting with Yu Yu and the others for a while, he put away the voice transmission talisman and flew into the distance. He had a chance to kill Emperor Ziwei during their last battle, but there were too many powerful beings at the time, and Emperor Ziwei was able to escape with his life. This time, however, Lin Ling had obtained a powerful treasure, which was the Immortal Slaying Sword. He was confident that he would be able to kill Emperor Ziwei. The Immortal Slaying Sword was a primordial treasure, a chaos divine weapon. However, the banishing immortal sword that the giant ghost had given him was obviously damaged, so it could not be used many times. Dipankara Buddhist God is so powerful. His realm intent is even more powerful than mine. I only managed to escape because of Dipankara Buddhist God's carelessness this time, but I won't be so lucky next time. I have to become stronger. Also, I have to be careful of Dipankara Buddhist God secretly attacking me. As he traveled along the ground, the sea of fog gradually disappeared, and endless mountains appeared in front of him. Not only were these mountains ancient, but they were also lush and filled with rich spiritual energy. Compared to the Chaos Realm, the Tao Realm is much more vibrant. Lin Ling sighed. Although the spiritual energy in the Chaos Realm was richer, it was like an old man on the verge of death. The Tao Realm, on the other hand, was like a young man in his prime. As for Lin Ling's Lin Ling universe, it was like a child. After a long time, Lin Ling appeared in an ancient city. After putting on a disguise, he went to inquire about Emperor Ziwei. Now, the entire Tao Pagoda area knew that Lin Ling had been captured and was probably dead. Therefore, the Heavenly Tao arrest order had been cancelled, causing not so many people to pay attention to Lin Ling. And it was not easy to find out the whereabouts of Emperor Ziwei. Fortunately, Emperor Ziwei was too famous. Lin Ling used some Tao realm fragments and finally found out the vague whereabouts of Emperor Ziwei. This person seemed to be east of the Tao Pagoda and was capturing someone. East of the Tao Pagoda, God-slaying mountain. Lin Ling memorized the name of the place and immediately left the city. The gods who had seen Emperor Ziwei said that they knew that Emperor Ziwei was at God-slaying mountain 3 days ago, and 3 days was enough time to change everything. Therefore, Lin Ling could only try his luck. This person seems to be Lin Ling. When Lin Ling left the city, he passed by a few gods. Those gods stopped in their tracks and were stunned. Then, their faces were filled with astonishment. Although Lin Ling had changed his appearance, it was only a casual change, so it was not difficult for those who had seen Lin Ling before to recognize him. Of course, these people were not too sure. Isn't Lin Ling dead? This must be fake. It's probably someone who looks the same, but his aura is very similar to Lin Ling. My eyes are playing tricks on me. How could Lin Ling escape from Dipankara Buddha? In the end, these gods shook their heads and denied that Lin Ling was still alive. The reason was precisely because of Dipankara Buddha. The area around the Tao Pagoda was very large. Lin Ling exploded with speed and spent a day to finally reach the so-called God-slaying mountain. What surprised Lin Ling was that God-slaying mountain was only a mountain, but it was so huge that he could not see the end. According to legend, this was the most sensational place of the great calamity of the world's will. Countless gods had fallen here, so it was called God-slaying mountain. It's too big. It will probably take a lot of time to find Emperor Ziwei. But who is Emperor Ziwei capturing? Lin Ling walked forward and disappeared into the huge and magnificent ancient mountain. Over there, found him. At this moment, in the magnificent ancient mountain, a large number of gods were flying through the air. The person in the lead was Emperor Ziwei. He had his hands behind his back and a cold smile on his face. Under his gaze, a god was frantically fleeing for his life at an incomparably fast speed. Unfortunately, Emperor Ziwei was too strong. He was a giant god of the universe and controlled everything. That person could not escape from Emperor Ziwei's grasp at all. Great God of Spirit Nation, I heard that you are also one of the hosts of the world's will. How about you submit to me? What was surprising was that the person Emperor Ziwei was capturing was actually a great god of Spirit Nation. During the battle at the coast, the Yellow Emperor had recruited several hosts of the world's will. Although Emperor Ziwei did not know the Yellow Emperor's intentions, he had a feeling that these hosts of the worlds would be useful for something. Therefore, after the battle, he secretly inquired about the whereabouts of the hosts of the world's will. In the end, he caught a few gods who claimed to be from the Spirit Nation. Only then did he learn about the great gods of the Spirit Nation. Moreover, he heard that this great god of Spirit Nation seemed to be related to the 3 divine gates of White Mountain. However, this great god of Spirit Nation secretly left the 3 divine gates and escaped alone. This was even more convenient for Emperor Ziwei. My Lord Run. Chapter 4901. Don't kill them. Stop. The North Pole Emperor hurriedly stopped them when he saw that they were about to kill the Spirit Nation great god. He wanted to recruit the Spirit Nation Great God. So he had to be friendly from the start. North Pole Emperor, we've already minded our own business. Why do you want to capture me? Capture. The fleeing god of the Spirit Nation also stopped in his tracks and glared coldly at the North Pole Emperor. He knew that the North Pole Emperor had his eyes on him. He wouldn't be able to escape in the short term. Capture? Don't put it that way. I just admire your ability and want you to work with me. That's all. The North Pole Emperor smiled calmly and walked down from the sky with his hands behind his back. The Spirit Nation Great God and the others were surrounded by the Spirit Nation Great God to prevent them from escaping. A mysterious enchantment quietly appeared, forming an aura that enveloped the Great God of Spirit Nation and the rest. The Spirit Nation Great God stared coldly at the North Pole Emperor. However, he could sense that the North Pole Emperor was not going to let him off easily. My lord, the Spirit Nation Great God and the other gods around him were all looking at him. The Spirit Nation used to be the strongest existence in the 9 states void. However, after the arrival of the Tao realm, they became so weak that they weren't even worth mentioning. Even the Spirit Nation Great God was the same. Even though he was the host of the world will, he was still weaker than an even more ancient god. Among the Spirit Nation Great Gods, one of them was Lord Ning. Haha, great god of the Spirit Kingdom, you came from the void of the 9 continents. You were close to the 3 divine gates of White Mountain, but for some reason, you left them. What surprised me was that the 3 divine gates didn't care about your escape. But don't worry. If you become my great god's tomb, the 3 divine gates of White Mountain won't dare to cause trouble for you. The North Pole Emperor smiled calmly. Of course, the Spirit Nation Great God didn't believe him. He knew how terrifying the 3 divine gates of White Mountain were. A mere North Pole Emperor was no match for them. I can become your tomb, Great God, but you have to make them leave first. The Great God of Spirit Nation pondered for a moment before raising his head. He naturally wasn't going to submit to anyone willingly. However, he knew that he had to lower his pride now that he was surrounded. If he could find an opportunity, he would definitely leave Emperor Ziwei's side. As for Lord Ning and the others, following the great god of the Spirit Kingdom, they would be used against him. In my opinion, it's better for them to stay together. I personally value little gods with bright futures. If they follow me, their potential will be even more extraordinary. However, Emperor Ziwei had seen through the Spirit Nation mighty god's ploy. At the very least, he didn't want to cause any unnecessary trouble before he had complete control over the Spirit Nation mighty god. Damn it, the great god of Spirit Nation cursed inwardly. Now, he had no way to back down. So what do you think? Emperor Ziwei approached the great gods of the Spirit Kingdom with a friendly expression, but there was a hint of pressure in his voice. The great god of Spirit Nation was silent. Lord Ning and the others acted as if they were facing a great enemy. As long as the great god of the Spirit Kingdom gave the order, they would strike immediately. They sighed inwardly. In the past, they could cover the sky with a single hand in the void of the 9 prefectures. But here, many ancient gods could dictate their lives. However, as members of the Spirit Kingdom, there was a wisp of the world's consciousness in their bodies that still supported the great god of the Spirit Kingdom. My lord, do you want to fight? Lord Ning asked in a low voice. The great god of the Spirit Kingdom remained silent as he assessed the situation. Sorry to disturb you, but I'm here for someone. However, at this moment, a calm voice suddenly sounded and broke the seal of the enchantment. Then, a figure slowly walked over. Do you have a death wish? Can't you see that Emperor Ziwei is doing something? The gods around Emperor Ziwei roared majestically. However, the newcomer didn't stop and gradually appeared before everyone's eyes. At this moment, the god-slaying mountain fell silent. Emperor Ziwei's pupils trembled in disbelief. The great gods of the Spirit Kingdom also looked at the newcomer and were shocked. Lin Ling. They all shouted at the same time. Lin Ling had been taken away by the Dipankara Buddhist god. This was something that everyone in the Tao realm knew. In their opinion, Lin Ling was dead for sure. But now, Lin Ling had appeared before them. For a moment, Everyone felt that this was too surreal. They all used their divine abilities to investigate Lin Ling, wanting to see if this was an illusion. In particular, Emperor Ziwei was the first to use his divine ability. In his opinion, this might be an illusion created by the great gods of the spirit kingdom. However, everything was very lifelike. Piss off. Moreover, when Lin Ling kept moving forward, there were two gods in front of him blocking his way. He reached out and grabbed the heads of the two gods in midair. Then, like a watermelon, he smashed them viciously. Bam! There was a loud boom as the heads of the two gods exploded. No amount of divine power or protective divine energy could protect them. All of this proved that this wasn't an illusion. Lin Ling, you're not dead. Emperor Ziwei also let out a furious roar when he saw that it was really Lin Ling. That's right, I'm not dead. In fact, I've returned. In fact, the first thing I did after returning was to find you. Lin Ling's footsteps faltered as he looked coldly at Emperor Ziwei. His eyes met Emperor Ziwei's, and Emperor Ziwei's body trembled as a sense of indescribable panic welled up in his heart. He had experienced Lin Ling's power a long time ago, and he knew that Lin Ling was no weaker than him. Stop him! Emperor Ziwei quickly thought to himself before pointing a finger at Lin Ling. The underlings of his tomb instantly pounced toward Lin Ling. Emperor Ziwei didn't hesitate in the slightest. He immediately flew into the distance at an extremely fast speed. He didn't even dare to fight. All he wanted to do was to leave. Most of the underlings of Emperor Ziwei's tomb were late-stage high gods, and they all unleashed their full power in an attempt to kill Lin Ling. Meanwhile, Lin Ling's tyrant song sword appeared and pounced toward his enemies. His sword slashed through the air, decapitating his enemies. Divine blood gushed forth. Sword projections flashed through the air like rainbows, slicing through time and slaying divine kings. After just one incense stick's worth of time, Lin Ling gradually disappeared into the distance. Lin Ling. The eyes of the spirit nation mighty figures trembled as they stood rooted to the spot, unable to move. Emperor Ziwei had come to capture them, and they had nowhere to run. However, Lin Ling's sudden arrival had scared Emperor Ziwei into fleeing, and all of his underlings had been slain. Looks like Lin Ling has undergone a metamorphosis after the battle in the Sea of Fog. The eyes of the spirit nation mighty figures flashed. Ever since they parted ways at the Eight Gods' heavenly palace, he knew that Lin Ling was extremely powerful. However, only now did he realize that Lin Ling was far more powerful than that. Even Emperor Ziwei was afraid of Lin Ling. Is he still Lin Ling? The Spirit Nation mighty figures were still able to accept reality, but Master Ning couldn't. He hadn't seen Lin Ling in a long time, and he didn't think that Lin Ling would be this powerful. He had always thought that the Spirit Nation mighty figure's strength would increase by leaps and bounds after reaching the Tao realm, and that no matter how powerful Lin Ling was, he would at most be on par with them. However, he didn't think that Lin Ling would grow even faster than the Spirit Nation mighty figures in the same place and at the same time. Chapter 4902. Don't worry, Lin Ling is one of us now. The great god of Spirit Nation looked into the distance, as if he saw Dipankara Buddha and the Grand Master of Heaven. He knew very well that Lin Ling would not sever ties with him before these powerful world will hosts died. Now they were even allies. This, Lord Ning and the others were shocked. Let's go. The great god of Spirit Nation did not say much and left immediately. He looked calm, but there were flames burning in his heart. That was the anger of indignation, because he did not want to be the weakest among all the world will hosts. This was very dangerous. At this moment, Emperor Ziwei flew over the ancient mountain and informed Emperor Yao and the others. Why is Lin Ling still alive? Damn it, I was too careless. Now that he is back, he will definitely take revenge. Lin Ling is not much weaker than me. If I am not careful, I might even be killed by him. Emperor Ziwei was extremely angry. The main reason was that 10 years ago, Lin Ling killed true god Penghua and Emperor Yuan with a single sword strike. leaving a heavy shadow in his heart. He was confident that he could not withstand that sword strike at all. Rumble. However, at this moment, a huge sword light slashed over, mixed with the terrifying power of divinity and the illusion of slaughter. He caught up so quickly. Right, I forgot that his speed is extremely fast. Emperor Ziwei's mood became even more uncomfortable. The Ziwei sword in his hand also slashed out, erupting with ferocious power of divinity, colliding with Lin Ling's sword. Then, he did not dare to fight and continue to run. His only choice now was to buy time for Emperor Yao and the others to arrive. Rumble. A rumbling sound came from behind. The collision of the two's power of divinity completely disintegrated. But at this moment, a sword appeared above his head and slashed down like a battle axe. Lin Ling had arrived. This speed is indeed heaven-defying. Emperor Ziwei gritted his teeth and slashed out. Lin Ling, don't push me too far. It was Emperor Yao and the others who harmed you back then. What does it have to do with me? At the same time, Emperor Ziwei cursed angrily. You don't have to explain. I only have one goal today, and that is to sacrifice you to my sword. In the sky, Lin Ling slashed down like a giant, shaking the heavens. Rumble. The two swords collided, erupting with a terrifying power of divinity. But this time, Emperor Ziwei was on guard, so Lin Ling's eternal killing world didn't have much effect on him. Even so, Emperor Ziwei was still struck by a sense of foreboding. He knew that Lin Ling wasn't as weak as he appeared to be. Sure enough, Lin Ling suddenly grew in size and used Panga Strike, Heaven and Earth Slash, the power of divinity's heavens slash. Emperor Ziwei let loose an enraged curse as he tossed out the mountain and river painting to stop Lin Ling before immediately fleeing. But Emperor Ziwei knew that this was only a temporary measure of time. 10 years ago, he had used this technique in the Sea of Mist, but it had still been destroyed by Lin Ling. Rumble. Sure enough, the universe in the sky continued to tremor, as if a giant was creating a new universe and destroying everything. In just a few moments, a huge fist stretched out and tore apart the stately painting. Crap, these guys are even more powerful than they were 10 years ago. Emperor Ziwei gritted his teeth and spat out a sentence. He had thought that the mountain river map would last longer, but he didn't think that it would last even longer. Run! Emperor Yao, are you still not going to appear? Emperor Ziwei's speed increased even further. However, an earth-shattering boom suddenly erupted behind him. The sky and earth trembled, and Emperor Ziwei turned around to see his face turn deathly pale. He was greeted by the sight of a giant whose head reached the heavens and feet stomping on the ground, chasing after him. All of the mountains he encountered along the way were destroyed with a single stomp. He was like an invincible being. Most importantly, not only was this giant massive, but his speed was also insanely fast. The distance between Emperor Ziwei and the giant was also constantly shrinking. Over there, cold sweat poured down Emperor Ziwei's forehead as he stared ahead and discovered a huge city. He immediately transformed into a purple streak of light and shot toward the city. Who's going to help me? Emperor Ziwei let loose an explosive roar before they had even reached the city. His voice caused the entire city to tremble. Countless gods looked up into the sky with rage, but they were all surprised to see Emperor Ziwei. Emperor Ziwei was one of the 4 divine emperors, and he was not someone normal gods could afford to mess with. Something's not right. Look, Emperor Ziwei seems to be in a hurry, and he's asking us to help him. All of the gods had their own speculations, and they all wanted to go and help him. Bam, bam, bam. However, deafening booms soon erupted, as if the heavens were exploding and the earth were being torn apart. Then, under the gazes of countless gods, a gargantuan giant galloped toward them from the distance. Most importantly, this giant's long hair flowed down his back, and his upper body was bare, giving him an extremely ferocious appearance. That looks like Lin Ling. Some people stared intently at the giant's face, and they recognized him. There were many gods in the city, and one or two of them had also appeared in the Battle of the Fog Sea 10 years ago, and they gradually began to recognize Lin Ling, the host body of the realm intent, Lin Ling. Cries of surprise erupted, and all of the gods froze in place as they stared into the distance with dumbstruck expressions. Emperor Ziwei is being hunted down by Lin Ling. It wasn't difficult for them to see what was going on, but they remembered that Lin Ling had fought Emperor Ziwei to a draw during the Battle of the Fog Sea. What are you all standing around for? Hurry up and help me, or I'll kill all of you. Emperor Ziwei was enraged by the fact that everyone was just watching without doing anything. I'll reward anyone who helps me with boundless Dao realm fragments. Emperor Ziwei yelled again. Lin Ling is the host body of the realm intent, and everyone has the right to kill him. You'll be doing the universe a favor by killing him. However, all of the gods in the city began to stir upon hearing this, and they all began to flee in different directions like a pack of rats. This was supposed to be a vast and boundless city, but it was instantly reduced to an empty city. Emperor Ziwei was dumbstruck. Not only were these pieces of trash not helping him, they were fleeing instead. You pieces of trash. Emperor Ziwei was struck by the urge to throw up blood. Unbeknownst to him, everyone had witnessed the Battle of the Fog Sea 10 years ago, and Lin Ling had made a name for himself. Unless they had a god like Emperor Yao leading them, they wouldn't dare to fight against him. They would be committing suicide. Take this, Emperor Ziwei. Emperor Ziwei had wasted some time in this city, and Lin Ling was drawing closer and closer to him. His fist was like a massive boulder crashing toward him from afar. Whoosh! The gargantuan city was swept up by gale-force winds, and the buildings tumbled like straw in the air. That one fist swept through most of the city. Emperor Ziwei's expression shifted drastically, and he had no choice but to fight back with all his might. Boom! Chapter 4903. Meanwhile, at this moment, the giant arrived. He attacked crazily as if he wanted to destroy everything, destroying the entire city. Rumble. An earth-shattering explosion rocked heaven and earth. Half of the ancient city had already been destroyed, and now Lin Ling had completely destroyed it. Lin Ling. Emperor Ziwei was forced back again and again, and his Ziwei sword was being bent by Lin Ling's massive fists. There was no way he could block them. If this were any other time, Lin Ling wouldn't have been able to suppress Emperor Ziwei. After all, his innate talent fusion could only match Emperor Ziwei's. But now, Lin Ling had used his trump card, Pangu's Strike, and his power had skyrocketed. Mountain River Map. Emperor Ziwei was forced into retreat, and he unleashed his mountain and river painting again. This treasure of his was indeed extraordinary. It had just been destroyed by Yihan, but he could use it again in a short period of time. The Mountain River Map is said to be a self-contained universe. This is a combination of a powerful divine staircase and a chaotic holy tool. Look, Emperor Ziwei has used the Ziwei Star. Lin Ling is probably going to die in the Mountain River Map. What a joke. You guys didn't see the Battle of the Sea of Fog, right? At that time, Lin Ling had already destroyed the Mountain River Map. What? Everyone was discussing spiritedly in the distance. Some gods who had returned from the Sea of Fog sneered coldly, causing many people to draw sharp intakes of breath. They all knew that Lin Ling was the host body of the realm intent, but they didn't think that Lin Ling would be this powerful. If that was the case, it would be even more difficult to kill him in the future. Why don't we go and help? A god suggested in a quiet voice. The host body of the realm intent is determined to destroy the world. Now, that Lin Ling is still able to suppress it, this is also a good opportunity. In the future, it will most likely be difficult for him to ascend to the heavens. Even more gods agreed with this idea. However, not only did the gods who had returned from the Sea of Fog not help, but they also fled further and further away. Boom! Sure enough, just as they thought, Lin Ling was trapped in the stately painting for only half an incense stick's time before a fist broke the stately painting. Then, The giant's figure descended once again. As for the gods who were trying to help, they had just approached the stately painting. When they saw this scene, all of them were so frightened that their mouths trembled. Even Emperor Ziwei's lips were trembling. This was because Lin Ling was breaking through his mountain and river map even faster than before. Kill me? The giant looked down at the earth, and it was as if he could hear the voices of the gods. This reminded Lin Ling of the Battle of the Gods in the Fog Sea. At that time, the gods were his enemies and only wanted to kill him. He didn't care about what he had done in the past. I, Lin Ling, am the host body of the world will. Whether I want to destroy or save the world, what does that have to do with ants like you? You dare to kill me? Die. Lin Ling threw out a punch, and the size of his fist was comparable to half a city. Run my A*S. We can't run now. Everyone, activate your power of gods and kill him. Countless gods roared and activated their powerful techniques to resist Lin Ling's punch. Ding ding dang dang. Unfortunately, Lin Ling's punch was like a divine fist of steel. Any powerful attacks that landed on it were all blocked. They couldn't affect it in the slightest. This is too heaven-defying. Seeing the massive fist hurtling toward them, the gods who had attacked all turned as pale as paper. Boom! When Lin Ling's punch arrived, they were all smashed into pieces. They couldn't be more dead. Some of the gods who still had the protection of Dao Realm cultivators were relatively lucky and were taken away by the Dao Realm cultivators. Get lost. Lin Ling's leg was like the sun, moon, and stars. It swept out horizontally and shattered the heavens. Bam, bam, bam. Everywhere it passed, the gods and the surroundings exploded like flies. There were countless casualties. Lin Ling, how dare you kill us? Even more gods yelled anxiously as they fled for their lives. Ha ha, I'm the host body of this realm's consciousness. If I don't kill you, am I supposed to save you? Lin Ling laughed maniacally. His voice reverberated through the heavens, and the nearby area trembled incessantly. A giant. This was nothing more than a giant that could split heaven and earth apart. Die. Then, Lin Ling let out an explosive roar. His voice was like a divine staircase that exploded forward. The powerful energy compressed the space and formed a terrifying sound wave that blasted a few early-stage high gods to pieces. As for intermediate gods, there was no need to even look. The sound waves created by Lin Ling's fist could directly crush them into pieces. North Pole Emperor, hand over your life. Ignoring the weak gods around him, Lin Ling started to pounce toward North Pole Emperor. Lin Ling. North Pole Emperor gnashed his teeth in anger. Ever since he became one of the 4 divine emperors, when had he ever suffered such a great loss? He was being hunted down and forcibly suppressed in the ancient city. This was a great humiliation. However, even though this was a great humiliation, he couldn't face Lin Ling head-on. Time. The most important thing is time. North Pole Emperor was well aware that time was of the essence, regardless of whether it was waiting for Emperor Yao and the others or Lin Ling's invincible divine abilities. North Pole Emperor's 7 stars. North Pole Emperor activated all of his divine power. His long hair danced wildly in the wind, and his eyes were bloodshot. Countless ancient divine emperors appeared around him before transforming into streaks of purple light that surged into his body. At this moment, his body also grew infinitely taller as his divine power skyrocketed. In the end, he was already as massive as Lin Ling. He was a giant, and an ancient giant at that. His divine power had also reached a terrifying level of 15 billion. With such divine power, insta-killing a higher god was as easy as breathing. Take this. North Pole Emperor slashed out with his sword. The sword transformed into a North Pole Emperor's divine light that spanned tens of thousands of kilometers as it slashed toward Lin Ling. North Pole Emperor, I didn't expect you to have this hidden technique. Lin Ling roared. Instead of retreating, he took a step forward, causing the earth to tremble and mountains to tremble as cracks spread. Then he unleashed a punch. Rumble. The two giants collided, creating a terrifying force that could destroy the universe. If this had happened in the void of the Kingdom of the Nine States or any other universe, this collision would have reduced everything to nothingness. How terrifying! Many gods had fled far away as they watched the fierce battle between the two giants. They could sense that the ferocious power unleashed by them could easily destroy all of them. Lin Ling is only a higher god, but his strength is comparable to a giant god of the universe. If he becomes a giant god of the universe, he'll definitely destroy the world. Even more people's hearts trembled. They wanted nothing more than for North Pole Emperor to kill Lin Ling. Rumble. At this moment, blood gushed out like a river, like an ocean, and dyed the sky red. Lin Ling had been wounded by North Pole Emperor's sword. His arm had been sliced open, and his body crashed into the ground like a gargantuan mountain. Boom! The entire earth tremored as countless ancient mountains crumbled. Dust and dirt soared into the sky, and the entire world became as dark as the underworld. Chapter 4904. Rumble. However, right at this moment, heaven and earth began to tremor violently as a giant rose from the ground. It was Lin Ling. You're not dead. Emperor Ziwei's body shuddered. My sword strike can sever the sun and moon, sever karma, and sever past and present lives. Why aren't you dead? Ha ha ha. With my powerful physical body, all curses, laws, and the great Tao of heaven and earth are useless against me. Lin Ling stepped forward with a boisterous laugh. His arm was still dripping with blood, and this came as quite a surprise to him. After all, his power of divinity was invincible. Yet Emperor Ziwei was still able to wound him with his power of divinity. If Lin Ling hadn't unleashed his Panga strike, that sword strike would have most likely been enough to kill Lin Ling with ease. Emperor Ziwei is a god emperor who has reigned for several generations, and he has far too many divine abilities and monarch techniques up his sleeves. I have to kill him right away. Lin Ling sensed the passage of time to discover that the power of his Panga strike was also continuing to weaken. Die! Lin Ling pounced forward and unleashed a barrage of fists that crashed down upon Emperor Ziwei. Rumble. Purplish golden blood gushed from Emperor Ziwei's entire body as the Ziwei star appeared above his head. Heaven and earth crumbled as the two of them battled, and countless gods perished as a result of their battle. Lin Ling. All of a sudden, a dazzling light appeared in the distance. Emperor Yao had arrived with countless vicious weapons. Help me, Mr. Emperor Yao. Emperor Ziwei was holding on for dear life, and he couldn't help but yell for help upon seeing Emperor Yao. In reality, he had been fighting Lin Ling with all his might. After all, he had been extremely wary of Lin Ling from the very beginning, and he didn't dare to battle Lin Ling. I'll definitely help you. Emperor Yao was extremely fast, and he was also a half-naked giant with his hair dancing wildly in the wind. He stared intently at Lin Ling, and his heart thumped like thunder. Just like Emperor Ziwei, he was extremely shocked to see Lin Ling return alive, and a strong sense of horror welled up in his heart. Even Dipankar Buddha couldn't suppress Lin Ling. This Lin Ling was too heaven-defying. Moreover, he was absolutely irreconcilable with Lin Ling. Lin Ling was also the host of the realm will. If Lin Ling didn't die, he, the ancient emperor, would fall as well. Emperor Yao. At this moment, Lin Ling sensed the surging aura behind him, and his expression turned serious. Emperor Yao was very powerful. He was comparable to the Yellow Emperor, and he was 100 times more powerful than Emperor Ziwei. If he allowed these two god emperors to fight him at the same time, he would definitely be forced to flee. Kill Emperor Ziwei first. Emperor Ziwei, your life is over. I saw it last time. The protection of your Tao realm has been used up. If you die this time, your divine altar will collapse, and there is a possibility that you will be reincarnated again. Back then, I killed your son, and you came to kill me. Now it's time for me to kill you. Lin Ling's fists pressed down furiously, causing Emperor Ziwei to break out in cold sweat. He knew that Lin Ling was going to go all out. He roared, "You dare to kill me? I, Emperor Zhui, have dominated this era and been invincible throughout the world. How could I be afraid of a mere Lin Ling?" He was clearly trying to boost his own morale. Demon vanquishing break. Lin Ling chuckled coldly. As he continued to press down with his fists, the cosmic ray also erupted. He used all his trump cards to kill Emperor Zhui. Lin Ling had a feeling that if Emperor Zhui didn't die this time, it would be very difficult to kill him again. This was because Emperor Zhui would probably leave the Tao realm and join the three divine sects of White Mountain. Such a powerful enemy was like a fishbone in his throat. How could he survive? Soul mystique. An invisible pressure descended, causing Emperor Ziwei's expression to shift drastically. He was wary of Lin Ling as he had witnessed all of Lin Ling's trump cards, one of which was soul power. He had always been wary of this technique as he had never thought of a way to counter it. Last time, he had expended countless god emperors to just barely block it. This time, he didn't have that many god emperor avatars left. Even if he did, they had all been obliterated by Lin Ling. "Don't kill me." Emperor Ziwei stumbled back in retreat. The cosmic ray made his soul tremble. "Lin Ling, you brat, don't you dare." Emperor Yao's panicked and enraged roar erupted from behind him. Arrogant. All of the gods in the distance were trembling as they witnessed Emperor Ziwei's imminent death. It was as if they were witnessing the rise of the most ancient god emperor, who had conquered all eras and swept through all ages. And this god emperor was none other than Lin Ling. Rumble. The cosmic ray passed through Emperor Ziwei's body, and he could clearly sense that none of his techniques were able to stop Lin Ling's mystique. Only his soul could. However, his soul power was nowhere near as powerful as Lin Ling's. This caused his soul force to continuously shatter. It was like an imperial project that gradually transformed into shattered glass, fell to the ground, and finally dissipated with the wind. Rumble. Emperor Ziwei fell to the ground, causing mountains and rivers to tremble. An ancient four-way god emperor had fallen here. His fall seemed to signify the change of time. God Emperor Lin Ling had risen to power. Lin Ling. Emperor Yao arrived from behind with countless vicious weapons. His eyes were bloodshot, and his body trembled as he witnessed this scene. An earth-shattering might erupted from the long ruler in his hand. This was the divine farmer ruler. "Haha, Emperor Yao, you're too late." Lin Ling's Pangu strike continued to weaken, and finally returned to its former state. He looked at the giant Emperor Yao in the distance and laughed heartily. "Back then, when I reached the Tao realm, you were the first to hunt me down, forcing me to flee in all directions. I walked past the cliff of death many times, but you didn't kill me. Instead, I grew stronger and stronger. Now, I've killed Emperor Ziwei and been crowned emperor. I'm getting closer and closer to you." Lin Ling pointed at Emperor Yao with the tyrannical aria in his hand. As his sword appeared, the gods in the distance trembled, as if they had seen an ancient god emperor. They had to bow and submit. "Lin Ling, I've underestimated you. At such a time, you can still crown an ancient god emperor. Impressive, impressive." Emperor Yao's expression was savage. Back then, he had seen Lin Ling as an anti-god, but now he saw Lin Ling as an ancient emperor. "All right, I, Lin Ling, won't waste words with you. If you want to fight 100 years later." Lin Ling laughed coldly. He knew he couldn't stay here for long. But how could Emperor Yao let him escape? "You think you can escape?" Emperor Yao roared. His terrifying divine power was even more terrifying than Emperor Ziwei's. It could reverse the universe and change the era. Lin Ling ignored him and turned into a shooting star, shooting into the distance. "Lin Ling is escaping. Don't let him escape." Many gods clenched their fists nervously. Now was the best time to kill Lin Ling. Emperor Yao had to succeed. "Kill!" Emperor Yao roared. He didn't want to say anything. He only wanted to kill Lin Ling. Behind him, millions of ferocious weapons were ready to move, charging towards Lin Ling in a mighty manner. But at this time, the Immortal Slayer sword arrived, turning into a 10,000 li long divine sword and slashing out. Terrifying laws slashed out. The sky seemed to be cut open, and a huge sword scar appeared in the primordial chi. Chapter 4905. The moment the immortal slaying sword appeared, heaven and earth changed color. Any laws, fate, and reincarnation were all cut off. The immortal slaying sword was too domineering. Heaven and earth fell silent. The gods in the distance felt their hearts explode. In front of them was a sea of blood. They didn't know how many of the murderous weapons were dead or injured. Even Emperor Yao stopped in his tracks. His eyes were trembling as he watched Lin Ling leave. The previous sword was too fast and too dangerous. It made him feel great danger. Fortunately, he had too many murderous weapons and blocked the sword for him. Could it be the sword from that day? Emperor Yao's voice was trembling. He looked back and saw the sea of blood rolling. More than half of the murderous weapons were dead or injured. The lucky ones only had their limbs cut off. Next, painful screams came from the murderous weapons that didn't die. When these screams came together, it was like the most tragic hell in the world. It made people feel cold all over. Emperor Yao's murderous weapons were incomparably famous. In the past, he relied on these weapons to sweep through the most ancient human world. He defeated all the kings of the era. No one dared to challenge him. But now, more than half of them were killed by a single sword. His glory was gone. Emperor Yao didn't say anything. He stood there and recalled the previous sword. Let's go. Then, he didn't chase after Lin Ling. He left with the remaining murderous weapons. He was obviously afraid of Lin Ling's sword. He didn't know if that sword had the power of the world's will. After all, Lin Ling had killed true god Peng Hua and the other two universe gods with a single sword. That was the power of the world's will. If Lin Ling had such a terrifying power of the world's will, it would be even more difficult for him to kill Lin Ling. He had to call for more experts. That day in the Sea of Fog, Lin Ling was suppressed by the various deity emperors. Lin Ling could only passively resist. But today, Lin Ling killed Emperor Ziwei and fought Emperor Yao without losing. In just 10 years, Lin Ling's strength has increased too much. The heavens want to destroy our universe. The worlds will still want to destroy the world. The gods in the distance were discussing. Lin Ling flew into the distance. When he sensed that no one was chasing after him, he let out a sigh of relief. After all, the celestial slaying sword could only be used 3 times. The first time was obviously used to intimidate. Fortunately, the effect was not weak at all. Rumble. After that, Lin Ling increased his speed and violently flew through the air. Where did you come from? How arrogant. What a powerful aura. That looks like Lin Ling. The gods hiding in the mountains sensed the fluctuations in the sky and came out one after another. However, many of them recognized Lin Ling and trembled, not daring to utter a single word. Lin Ling didn't die. Even more people were surprised by this. Unfortunately, Lin Ling didn't care about them at all. Now, the entire Dao realm knew that he, Lin Ling, was the host body of the world's will, so there was no need to hide anything. After a long time, Lin Ling finally arrived at the Yellow Emperor's territory. Where did you come from? A stern shout was heard. Then, from the endless mountains, a towering aura erupted. After the battle in the Fog Sea, the Yellow Emperor's side was now in a state of panic. All the gods had returned to protect Lei Gong and the others. This one is Lin Ling. Lin Ling looked at a huge flying dragon on the ground. This flying dragon was as big as a mountain and covered in purple flames. It was extremely impressive. Lin Ling, the flying dragon's body, trembled and turned into a man in purple robes. He looked at Lin Ling in disbelief. It's Lin Ling. It's really Lin Ling. Subsequently, more and more deities recognized Lin Ling and were incredibly astonished. Lin Ling had become famous after the battle in the Fog Sea. They naturally recognized Lin Ling. The Yellow Emperor already knows that I'm back. I'll go see him. Lin Ling smiled at the gods. They didn't dare to stop him. They knew that Lin Ling's seniority in the Yellow Emperor's heart was not low. Lin Ling, you're back. At this time, Ji Wading and the others also arrived. They were all delighted and brought Lin Ling to the depths of the mountains. Moments later, on a plain, the Yellow Emperor and the others were all present. Other than the people in Lei Gong's hall, the strongest experts in the Yellow Emperor's tomb were also there. These people all had the strength of the universe's giant gods. Lin Ling, you're back. The Yellow Emperor personally came to welcome Lin Ling. After Lin Ling landed, he bowed slightly to the Yellow Emperor. In the past, he treated the Yellow Emperor as a peer, but now he more or less respected the Yellow Emperor. This was because without the Yellow Emperor, Lei Gong's hall would definitely be in danger. Big Brother Ling, Lin Ling, my lord. The people in Lei Gong's hall all gathered around, incomparably excited. I made everyone worried. Lin Ling could feel that everyone's concern came from the bottom of their hearts. This warmed his heart. During this period of time, he had been constantly fighting outside, and his heart had long turned cold. Only when he saw his family and friends would the warmth hidden in the depths of his heart be revealed. Lin Ling, how did you escape back? Lei Gong and Longyang smiled at Lin Ling and asked, It's a long story. Let's find a place to rest first. Lin Ling said, All right. The Yellow Emperor's eyes flashed. He knew that Lin Ling must have some secrets, so he let the others leave, leaving only his confidants behind. Moments later, a large amount of food and wine was served. Everyone ate and chatted. Lin Ling ate heartily. After so many years, he had not eaten mortal food for a long time. Even though it wouldn't be a problem, even if he didn't eat or drink at his current level, he still kept the traditions of mortals. These traditions told Lin Ling that no matter how powerful he would become in the future, he was still a mortal who had entered the spirit through martial arts. In the Chaos Realm, I saw Dipankara Buddha. That old man wanted to refine me, but he underestimated me. I asked Senior Guangchengzi and Brother Monkey for help, and used Dipankara Buddha's carelessness to escape. Later, I saw the giant ghost. He was the one who brought me back. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Lin Ling said slowly, Master, it's Master. The Yellow Emperor immediately became excited. That day, he had informed his master, but he was not sure if his master would receive the news or help Lin Ling. But now it seemed that he was overthinking. I see. Everyone suddenly understood. Although Lin Ling said it simply, they all felt that the process must be extremely dangerous. But no matter what, Lin Ling being able to return was enough. However, Dipankara Buddha has probably already set his eyes on me. He will definitely try his best to capture me. At this time, Lin Ling said solemnly. He was at the Yellow Emperor's place. As long as he could find the Yellow Emperor, he would be able to find Lin Ling. This worried Lin Ling a little. This is a little troublesome. The Yellow Emperor also knew Lin Ling's concerns. Then he pondered and said with a smile, Lin Ling, you can enter the Tao Pagoda. This way, Dipankara Buddha will have a hard time finding you. Tao Pagoda. Chapter 4906. The Tao Pagoda is the core of the Tao realm. The one who controls the Tao Pagoda can control the entire Tao realm. Moreover, the cultivation speed inside is faster than in the Tao realm. Of course, it's also more brutal. Blind and heartless have all been there before. We saw with our own eyes how the giant gods of the universe were obliterated. However, the Tao Pagoda is divided into 9 levels. The higher you go, the stronger the giant gods of the universe are. At the lowest levels, they probably won't be able to harm you. Lin Ling listened to the Yellow Emperor's explanation and finally nodded. He had wanted to go to the Tao Pagoda for a long time, but he had been delayed by the Heavenly Tao's arrest warrant. Okay, then I'll enter the Tao Pagoda immediately. Lin Ling looked at the Yellow Emperor and said, We'll go too. Yu and the others were now much stronger, so they also wanted to enter the Tao Pagoda. The Yellow Emperor nodded. All of you should go in, especially Lei Gong, Longyang, and Xiaoluan. It's too dangerous for you to stay in the Tao realm. Although the Tao Pagoda is dangerous, there aren't as many gods in the Tao realm. It'll be safer for you. Seeing that the Yellow Emperor also suggested that Yu and the others enter, Lin Ling had no choice but to agree. Originally, he didn't want Yu and the others to take the risk. Right? Why are there strong and weak giant gods of the universe? Lin Ling thought of the recent battles and couldn't help but ask curiously. For example, true god Peng Hua and the North Pole Emperor were obviously stronger. The giant gods of the universe control the universe and transcend life and death. In fact, there's only one realm. There's no strong or weak. However, many giant gods of the universe have cultivated for a long time and have treasures on them. That's why there are strong and weak giant gods of the universe. As for the gods who become giant gods of the universe, each one of them is a god-emperor of their era. Changing their fate is as easy as flipping their hands. They are divided into 3 major titles: King class, Saint class, and God class. For example, Emperor Ziwei and true god Peng Hua are merely King class. Even I am at the King level, the Yellow Emperor kept explaining. Lin Ling gasped. He had thought that since the Yellow Emperor was more powerful, he would have to be at the titled rank. But as it turned out, the Yellow Emperor was only at the King rank. Lin Ling, you have too many trump cards, Yellow Emperor reminded him. You can kill a giant universe god, but you can't defeat all the king-level giant universe gods. You have to remember this so that you won't be in danger because of your arrogance. Lin Ling nodded heavily. It seemed that he had to increase his strength again. Unfortunately, he didn't have many treasures in his possession now. So if he wanted to break through again, he would probably have to expend a great deal of effort. Can the Tao Return to Heaven be used in the Tao Pagoda? Lin Ling asked again. Yes, there are even more Tao realm fragments inside the Tao Pagoda. In fact, there are layers of tests left behind by the master of the Tao Pagoda. Those who complete the tests will be rewarded. The Yellow Emperor said. Test. Lin Ling's lips curled into a smile. Although he could obtain a lot of Tao realm fragments by killing people and robbing treasures, it wasn't enough for him to break through. Now that the Tao Pagoda had tests, it was the right time for him to accumulate a lot of Tao realm fragments. Do you have any other questions? The Yellow Emperor looked at the crowd, but they all shook their heads. How about you enter the Tao Pagoda in 3 days? Okay, everyone agreed in unison. Lin Ling, you should have rested longer. After all, you've been fighting all this time and haven't had much time to rest. Unfortunately, the enemy didn't leave us much time, so you can only rest for 3 days. The Yellow Emperor said to Lin Ling after seeing everyone nod. 3 days is enough. Lin Ling said with a smile. You all can rest here. We haven't seen each other for many years, so you must have a lot to talk about. The Yellow Emperor smiled and left with Guan Wading and the others. As for Lin Ling, he accompanied the people in Lei Gong's hall and continued to talk and laugh. They all roughly talked about their experiences over the years. In general, everyone had encountered danger and everyone had their own opportunities. It was just that Lin Ling had encountered the greatest danger and the greatest. This conversation took up most of the afternoon. That night, Lin Ling accompanied Yu and the other 2 girls in the cave mansion. After a long time, the 3 beauties lay on Lin Ling's chest and listened to Lin Ling talk about his experiences over the years. Lin Ling teased his 3 beautiful wives and talked with assurance. His mood was unprecedentedly comfortable. On the 2nd day, they didn't cultivate. Instead, they left the Tao realm and returned to the Lin Ling universe to accompany their families. After all, no one knew how long this trip to the Tao Pagoda would take, so they had to seize this hard-won time. Linger, you've worked hard. While accompanying Extreme Flame Ancestor also sighed. Every time Lin Ling went out, they would tremble in fear and pray that Lin Ling would return safely. Fortunately, Lin Ling returned safely every time and protected everything. However, when they thought that the battle was over and they could live a peaceful life, the battle was still not over. Lin Ling was forced to become stronger again. This process seemed to be never-ending. However, they felt that Lin Ling was about to reach the end. At that time, no one in this universe could invade their home. In fact, Lin Ling also had this feeling. With his current strength, he could already face Dipankara Buddha. As long as he didn't die, he would definitely be able to catch up to Dipankara Buddha, pursue the universe's most ancient secrets, and even control it, while Lin Ling was accompanying his family. On the other side, the Yellow Emperor's territory also welcomed a large number of powerful enemies. These powerful enemies were led by Emperor Yao, Emperor Shun, and Great Emperor Xianxia. They came to suppress Lin Ling. However, the Yellow Emperor did not inform Lin Ling. Instead, he called for the gods in the tomb to resist with all their strength. Fortunately, this battle was not intense. Only a few gods died. In the end, the three great ancient emperors were scared away by the Yellow Emperor's determination. After all, if they really wanted to fight the Yellow Emperor head-on, it would be a matter of killing 1,000 enemies and injuring 800 of their own. 3 short days passed quietly. On this day, Lin Ling brought Yu Yu and the others back. However, on this day, the Yellow Emperor's territory welcomed another expert. This expert was incomparably powerful and came from the 3 divine gates of White Mountain. When Lin Ling and the others returned, they found out that the Yellow Emperor had blocked a wave of powerful enemies for them. The current wave was no small matter. Lin Ling, quickly go to the Tao Pagoda. I will stop them. After Lin Ling and the others received the news, the Yellow Emperor solemnly warned them. But Lin Ling did not want the Yellow Emperor to block these powerful enemies alone. Go, I can stop them. Moreover, only if you go to the Tao Pagoda will they change their target. The Yellow Emperor's voice came again, causing Lin Ling and the others to grit their teeth. Under the lead of Wu Ting, they flew toward the ancient Tao Pagoda. In order to enter the Tao Pagoda, each person needed 1,000,000 Tao Realm fragments. However, this amount of Tao Realm fragments was clearly not a problem for Lin Ling. What Lin Ling lacked was more Tao Realm fragments. After a long time, the Tao Pagoda came into view. Looking closer, Lin Ling realized how huge and mighty the Tao Pagoda was. It was like the most ancient god of the universe, overlooking the entire universe. Chapter 4907. The Tao Pagoda exuded a terrifying majesty. In the distance, Lin Ling and the others were getting closer and closer. Lin Ling, the light under the Tao Pagoda can take you in. Remember, every time you enter, you have to spend 1,000,000 Tao Realm fragments. After entering, your Tao Realm return to heaven will allow you to leave. However, when you leave, you can only appear at the place where you first came from. Wu Ting looked at Lin Ling and the others and said, "The void of the 9 continents." Lei Gong and the others nodded. So, if we want to leave the Tao Pagoda and reach the Tao Realm, we need to take another path. Lin Ling asked. In fact, the Tao Pagoda has paths to various universes, even the Primal Chaos Realm. However, where the paths are, you will need to explore them. Wu Ting said. His eyes looked into the distance and then said apologetically, "Lin Ling, I have to go help the Yellow Emperor. I wish you good luck." "Go." Lin Ling nodded and watched Wu Ting leave. He led Yu Yu and the others step by step to the bottom of the Tao Pagoda. Looking up, the Tao Pagoda was suspended in mid-air, emitting a gentle light. At the bottom of the Tao Pagoda, a huge ray of light shone down. Endless brilliance flowed, incomparably beautiful. That ray of light was the entrance to the Tao Pagoda. Lin Ling looked around and found that there were no gods around. It seemed that not everyone could enter the Tao Pagoda. However, it was undeniable that entering the Tao Pagoda was the goal of every god in the Tao realm. Emperor Yao, Emperor Shun, and many ancient gods still haven't entered the Tao Pagoda. Is there a reason? However, they will eventually enter the Tao Pagoda, as well as the great gods of Spirit Nation and the Taoist of many treasures. Lin Ling secretly pondered. Then, without hesitation, he led Yu Yu and the others toward the huge ray of light. As soon as they entered the beautiful ray of light, everyone's Tao return to heaven floated out. Everyone could clearly feel that the Tao realm fragments inside were disappearing. If we don't have enough Tao realm fragments and walk in here, I wonder what will happen? Yu Yu asked curiously when she noticed that there was no pressure around her. Lin Ling sensed for a while and guessed, if I don't have 1,000,000 Tao realm fragments, I'll probably die in this divine light. When everyone heard this, they could not help but shudder. This Tao pagoda was indeed heartless. Lin Ling, there seems to be a change. At this moment, Dragon Lady reminded him. Only then did everyone realize that their bodies were becoming illusory. Then, they began to disintegrate, all of them showing signs of turning into dust. "My lord," Xianxia asked anxiously. Everyone wanted to rush out of the divine light. They were deeply afraid of dying here. Lin Ling's expression also changed drastically. Was he trying to turn them into nothingness? However, each of them had prepared 1,000,000 Tao realm fragments. Moreover, the Yellow Emperor would never allow them to enter if there was any danger. "Don't be impulsive, wait." Forcefully suppressing the thought of escaping, Lin Ling shouted. Hearing Lin Ling's words, everyone suppressed their impulses and waited quietly in place. Next, the divine light disintegrated all of them, turning them into dust and drifting in the divine light. The most frightening thing was that even though Lin Ling and the others had turned into dust, they could still sense the changes in their surroundings. Then, a huge suction force came, bringing countless dust into the colorful light and drifting away with the wind. This dissipation felt very fast, but it also felt as if it had gone through several eras. A moment later, light appeared on the first floor of the Tao Pagoda. A large amount of colorful dust swirled in the light and gradually began to take human shape. It was Lin Ling and the others. So that's how it is. As his body continued to recover, Lin Ling also came to a realization. Then he looked around and kept shouting, "Yu Yurger Lei Gong." However, a large number of figures also appeared around him. It was Yu Yu and the others. "We're in." After Yu Yu and the others appeared, they all said in surprise. It turned out that this was the power of the Tao Pagoda's teleportation. Lin Ling quickly counted the number of people and found that everyone was there. There were Yu Yu and the other girls, Lei Gong, the 3 great world wills, and Nanwu Fengyu, young Lin, Shangyi, and the others. Even Sakura, young demon master, and the others had entered together. Not a single one of them was missing. Only then did Lin Ling look around and realize that the sky here was a little gray, as if night had fallen. They were in a large grassland. However, it was terrifyingly quiet, as if there were no traces of people. This is the first floor of the Tao Pagoda, but the spiritual energy here is very rich, 10 times richer than the Tao realm. No wonder everyone came for the Tao Pagoda. Next, everyone was pleasantly surprised. The gods wanted to become stronger. To put it bluntly, it was the process of accumulating the power of the universe. Whoever had more power of the universe would naturally be stronger. Finally, when they reached a certain level, they could use the various powers in their bodies to create their own universe and stand at the peak of the era. However, there were too many gods and there were not enough resources to share. Therefore, the spiritual energy of the Tao realm in the Jiuzhou void was not strong. However, here, the spiritual energy was 10 times richer, and it would undoubtedly allow the god's strength to increase faster. It's comparable to the Chaos realm. Lin Ling could not help but smile. Roar! However, at this time, an earth-shattering sound came from afar, causing the entire prairie to shake. "There are monsters here," Lei Gong immediately said, "and judging from the aura, these monsters are very strong. I just don't know what kind of divine beasts they are. Let's leave first." Lin Ling looked at everyone and said, it was their first time in the Tao Pagoda, and they were unfamiliar with everything. It was right to be cautious. Everyone immediately flew in another direction, but along the way, they still did not see any gods. All this showed that the first floor of the Tao Pagoda was very, very big, beyond imagination. However, the prairie was still dark. In the depths of the distance, a little bit of starlight vaguely appeared, as if they were eyes, monitoring Lin Ling and the others. Lin Ling and the others were not weak. When they investigated, they found that there was nothing there. Only the tall grass was fluttering in the wind. It was very strange. There are indeed monsters over there, but they are not weak. When we investigated, they avoided us. Lin Ling reminded them solemnly. Look over there. Those eyes have appeared again. At this time, Yu pointed to the other side and said, there are also some over there. Sakura also said. Everyone felt a chill. Even if they were gods in the Tao Pagoda, they still felt that life and death were out of their control. This feeling was even stronger than when they were in the Tao realm. After all, they could see enemies in the Tao realm, but they could not see them here. There are too many of them. If this goes on, I'm afraid we will be in danger, Lin Ling said with a frown. He was most afraid of such hidden dangers, and there were so many of them. Be careful and protect yourselves. I will go and investigate. Chapter 4908. Do you think those people are illusions? The monsters here are so powerful that they can release illusions to tempt the gods. I don't think so. The monsters that are good illusions are all near the water, and there is no water nearby. That's right. Let's see if those people are strong. They were talking in low voices. Although they were secretly transmitting their voices, Lin Ling's soul power could vaguely hear something. These people were very cautious. Moreover, they were all late-stage superior gods, and the strongest was only a peak superior god. They saw Lin Ling and the others stop in their tracks. After pondering, they immediately glided towards Lin Ling's side. Their speed was incomparably fast, but what was surprising was that they did not dare to fly too high. They only flew close to the ground. This made Lin Ling even more certain that they were afraid of something. You guys, where did you come from? After the three people arrived, they immediately smiled at Lin Ling. The three of them were old men wearing loose robes, giving off a kind and amiable feeling. Lei Gong and the others immediately looked at Lin Ling and found that Lin Ling was silent. Lei Gong hurriedly smiled at the three people and said, "We just entered the Tao Tower. Fellow Taoists, why are there so few people in the Tao Tower?" "I see." The three people's expressions relaxed, and one of the old men smiled and said, "This Tao Tower is dangerous. There are monsters everywhere, and they are very powerful. They are the manifestation of the Tao Tower's will, and they specialize in devouring gods to strengthen themselves. The gods do not dare to casually go out and hide in the palace, only daring to come out at dawn." Dawn? Lei Gong was suspicious. That's right. Every day, there are 8 hours of dawn, and the rest is darkness. When darkness comes, it is the most terrifying. If the giant gods of the universe are not careful, they will also fall here. What are those palaces? There are many palaces here, located in every corner. They collapse every day and are reborn every day. There's a divine light in the palaces, which is the divine light that brought you into the Tao Tower. This divine light can make the monsters not dare to come close. All right, you can also leave the Tao Tower in the divine light of the palaces. Hearing this, Lin Ling and the others suddenly understood. It turned out that they could only leave from a place that had the divine light of the Tao Pagoda. "Where's the palace?" Xianxia asked. Then, he said with lingering fear, "There are eyes watching us from all directions. Walking on a grassland is too scary. We all want to find a palace to rest." Of course, when night falls, most gods don't dare to go out. It's very dangerous. You guys have just entered the Tao Pagoda, and your bodies are still protected by some divine light. That's why those monsters didn't easily devour you. Otherwise, you would have died long ago, said the old man. "What will happen at dawn?" This time Lin Ling asked. The three old men glanced at Lin Ling discreetly. Seeing that Lin Ling's realm was not high, they finally relaxed. After all, they noticed that this group of people were more or less looking at this young man. Obviously, this young man was the leader of this group, but his strength was rather surprising. At dawn, this place is full of treasures. The earth will grow crazily. Universe-level spiritual herbs and spiritual flowers will wither at night. So dawn is also the time for us to collect treasures. Then how do we get the Tao realm fragments and enter the second floor? Lin Ling asked again. To enter the second floor, you need 10 million Tao realm fragments. The third floor needs 100 million. The fourth floor needs 10 billion. the fifth floor needs 100 billion, and so on. The three didn't hide anything and kept explaining. Hearing this, Lin Ling and the others gasped. There were 9 floors in the Dao Pagoda. How many Dao realm fragments would it take to reach the 9th floor? After Lin Ling recovered from his shock, his eyes flashed quietly. These 3 people had answered one of his questions, but there was still one question left unanswered. That was how to get the Dao realm fragments. He felt that there must be a secret behind this. Rumble. At this time, the grassland shook again, and there was a deafening roar. This made the 3 old men's faces change dramatically. They said anxiously, "Go, go quickly. The monsters are coming." After saying this, they ignored Lin Ling and the others and fled into the distance. Go. Lin Ling and the others hurriedly chased after them. They looked back and saw that the grassland was still quiet, but it was so dark that it made one's heart palpitate. It was as if some terrifying monster was hiding in the darkness. Looking around again, the eyes from before had disappeared, as if they were afraid of the monster that had made the roar. Roar. Moreover, the monster's roar had been following Lin Ling and the others. Obviously, it had locked onto Lin Ling and the others. Lin Ling released his soul force to investigate and found that in the distance, a large expanse of darkness was rolling over. What kind of monster was hiding in the darkness? Even Lin Ling couldn't detect it. It's really scary. Lin Ling was strong, but he was also secretly afraid. Look, is that a palace? Suddenly, Xianxia pointed ahead and said. Looking along the horizon, there was a white dot in the grassland. One could vaguely see that it was in the shape of a palace. When everyone used their abilities to look, they could see that it was a dilapidated palace. However, the palace was brightly lit. At this time, the 3 people at the front suddenly stopped and walked towards Lin Ling with smiles on their faces. There's one more thing that I forgot to remind you, they said as they walked. Xianxia and the others wanted to listen to the 3 people's explanation, but at this time, Lin Ling's voice came, causing their eyes to flicker with a cold light. What is it? Sakura suddenly asked. There's a taboo on this level. It's extremely important. If you don't pay attention, you can easily die here. An old man said with a smile. They were getting closer and closer to Lin Ling and the others. But at this time, Xianxia made his move, and the Dongwang bell suppressed them. Rumble. The old man couldn't react in time, and with the Dongwang bell's power, he was immediately suppressed to the ground and suffered heavy injuries. Second brother. The other 2 people's faces changed drastically. They didn't expect Lin Ling and the others to suddenly make a move. Stop pretending. You should be Taoist realm demons, right? Do you think I didn't see through your true forms? At this time, Lin Ling said slowly. He had explored the demon city to the west of the Dao Pagoda, so he naturally recognized the aura of these demons. It seems like you've already sensed it, but I'm curious. How did you know that we were going to harm you? The other 2 old men shook their bodies, and their demonic aura surged as they transformed into huge demons. Their origins were extremely strange. One of them had a face full of long hair like a gorilla or monkey, but it didn't look like one. The other one was completely naked like a bear. Mountain demon and mountain ghost. Lin Ling's eyes flashed as he saw through their origins. He said indifferently, "It's simple, because you haven't told me how you got the Dao Realm fragment. Now that I know, you probably got it from killing people." As soon as he finished speaking, he combined his talents and slashed out with the eternal killing world. At the same time, Lei Gong and the others also made their move, joining forces to suppress the other expert. Lin Ling didn't need to say much. He was only a peak higher celestial, and when he unleashed his full strength, it was as easy as chopping vegetables. Lei Gong's 3 world hosts, and together with Yu Yu and the others, it wasn't difficult to kill the other expert. Chapter 4909. Under the night sky, Lin Ling and the rest glided across the grass. Ahead of them, the Palace of Light was getting closer and closer. However, behind Lin Ling and the rest, a terrifying aura was pressing down. The dark clouds merged into the darkness like a demon wolf, rapidly devouring everyone. Hurry! No one could see what was behind them. All they could see was darkness. Lin Ling's anxious voice drifted over. In fact, Lin Ling didn't even attack the thing behind them. He felt that if he did, the outcome would be even more troublesome. What the hell is this? Why does it give me such a terrifying feeling? Yu Yu and the rest were also exclaiming. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Behind them, the wind of darkness blew, chilling their hearts. Fortunately, the Palace of Light was within sight, and the door was open as though there was no one inside. Charge in, Lei Gong shouted, and was the first to charge into the palace. Following him were Xianxia, Yu Yu, and the rest. Lin Ling brought up the rear. He looked at the darkness that was closing in and pondered for a moment. Then, he punched out, using the powerful strength of God to attack the darkness. After that, Lin Ling didn't dare to linger and charged into the palace. That punch from before was merely a probing attack. Rumble. To Lin Ling's surprise, the punch disappeared without a trace after hitting the darkness. Instead, it caused a terrifying reaction. If Lin Ling hadn't charged into the palace, he would probably be in trouble. Bang, bang, bang. The door of the palace was closed tightly by Lei Gong and the rest. They were afraid that the demons outside the palace would charge in. However, the dilapidated door of the palace had a strange magical power that kept the demons outside the palace pacing back and forth. In the end, they didn't dare to come close. Lin Ling looked. At this moment, Yu Yu shouted at Lin Ling. There were windows all around the palace, and they could see everything outside. Lin Ling rushed over and looked through the window. Then he gasped. Outside the house, the darkness was tumbling, gradually turning into the shape of a huge dog. This dog was incomparably huge, even more majestic than a mountain. It looked down at the palace, and dark clouds swirled around its body like a divine dog of darkness. It also saw Lin Ling and the others by the window. Its strange eyes stared at them, and finally, it turned into darkness and flew into the distance. How terrifying! Lin Ling and the others were gods. They had seen a lot of demons and ghosts in their lives, but this was the first time they saw a dark divine hound like this. Previously, they had only exchanged a glance, but they all felt that if they were to really fight, that terrifying black dog would be able to devour them in one gulp. Is it formed from Tao realm willpower? Yu Yu murmured. Fortunately, he left. Long Yang also quietly wiped the cold sweat on her forehead. Everyone, look around and see if there are any loopholes, Lin Ling said to the others. Then, he wanted to set up a barrier around the palace, just in case. But then, Lin Ling helplessly realized that all this would not work, because when the barrier fell around the palace, it was swept by the divine light and turned into ashes immediately. Lin Ling looked up and saw a gem hanging from the ceiling of the palace. The divine light came from the gem, and when one stared at the gem, it was not dazzling to the eyes. Instead, an ancient voice sounded in the depths of one's soul. The Temple of Sun. So this was the Temple of Sun? Lin Ling suddenly understood. At this moment, young Master Yao's voice was heard. Lin Ling, there's a second floor here. There's also a window, and you can see further. Then, everyone rushed to the second floor. Nanwu Fengyu Bai and Whitewater Pure Girl felt that it was not safe, so they moved a huge rock from the palace to block the entrance. Although this was a completely useless action and was purely a psychological comfort, it was still better than nothing. When they reached the second floor, they saw that there were 4 windows on the second floor, and they could see the endless prairie in the distance. However, the prairie was dark and silent, as if it was filled with endless danger. This is the first time I felt so scared after becoming a god. It's like a mortal coming to the ghost realm. Treasure God, Nanwu Fengyu said with a wry smile as he stared outside the window. Everyone was deeply moved by this. Rumble. At this moment, a rumbling sound came from the eastern window. Lin Ling and the others hurried over and saw a terrifying white light rising in the dark distance. It seemed that there was a great battle. Go to hell, go to hell. They could vaguely see that the ones who attacked were gods. There were about 2 of them. One of them had the strength of a peak high-level deity, and the other had the strength